You are now entering Maximum Driftcast, the only drifting podcast hosted by a Spanish soccer mom, a 30-year-old silver-haired fox going on 60, and finally, a 200-pound bowl of spaghetti with chimichanga arms.
The champions, we are the champions.
Welcome to another episode of, what show is this, Corey?
Maximum Sausage Cast.
Maximum, you broke your arm. Here's a cast to cover
Cast.
it. Cast.
I had 2 sausage links for breakfast this morning.
Did you really?
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. No, let's get into the hard news first. All right, Corey, tell us about your breakfast.
Well, I had a weird dream last night, actually, I wanted to talk about.
You were a sausage and you were eating yourself?
No, I had this dream last night. Actually, Chris and Paco were in it.
Okay, where was I?
You weren't there. Yeah, you weren't there.
All right, go on.
So anyways,
editing videos.
Yeah, I don't know what you're doing. But anyways, it ended up being really weird. Like, Paco met up on his motorcycle.
Yep.
And he was wearing his Darth Vader helmet.
Yep.
And we met at a country bar. And at the country bar, there was a giant pillow fight.
Okay.
And at that pillow fight, there was this little guy. He walked up to me and he goes,
Yep.
"Hey, what's your name?" And I said, "Terry." And I was wearing my Hawaiian shirt.
It wasn't Harry Berry?
No, I said, "My name's Terry." And then he says, "You look like a Terry." And I was like, "Fuck, is that bad or good?"
Yep.
And he's like, "With a name like Terry, I owe you a drink." So I had a drink with this guy.
Yep.
And then after that, we left, and we ended up taking Chris back to his hotel, and then we went home with this and went back to sleep in my dream.
Is that an actual, did this actually happen, or is this?
I think that
no.
actually happened.
That was actually what occurred last night.
Yeah.
Okay,
Sorry.
cool. Well, I guess welcome to another episode of Maximum Dreamcast, where Corey tells us about his dreams / what he
But I
actually
did have
last
2
night.
pieces of sausage for breakfast.
Yeah.
So that's everything we've told on the show is
Right.
100% true.
The best part is, how do you eat the last piece?
I made a bet with Paco that I can eat it in one bite.
Did you?
Yes.
So
absolutely.
what did you win?
Nothing.
No, you
a
won-
bunch of credibility.
You
and
won a
happiness.
mouthful of sausage?
Yep.
Hell
It kind of
yeah.
won my respect, but at the same time, it's like a, I don't know if I really respect that
Yeah,
much.
so he
but
was kind of like Paul Walker, and you were kind of like Vin Diesel, and he needed to earn,
a 10 seconds.
I needed to earn his respect.
and you earned the respect by
Sausage
downing an entire sausage in one bite.
One bite. So that all happened this morning.
Which actually, or sorry, spoiler alert, that is the plot of Fast and what's the new one called?
the new one.
The
Fate,
fast,
Fate of the
the
Furious.
Faster and the Furious,
and no, the Faster and the Courteous.
Curious.
the Fast and the Curious. Yeah.
So it's all about imports like Priuses and Corollas,
Yeah.
but they're using blinkers, stopping 10 feet before the stop signs, checking both
Yep.
ways. Not much street racing because that's illegal.
Yep.
So it's
It
all.
the movie's just gonna be one big PSA about listen, street racing and modifying your cars is illegal. Don't do
Don't
it.
And they have one bad friend. His name's it's Vin Unleaded,
Ooh.
and he's the troublemaker.
Yeah.
So
And
that
he's like, I'm going to put an intake on your car. And they're like, no.
Don't do it.
That may not be street legal in California.
yeah, EPA regulation's gonna crack down on you.
And then they don't.
Yep.
The end.
Yeah. So, anyways, Vin ends up selling his car and buys a Buick Riata, and they all just drive away together and
Yep.
parallel.
This is a
park.
garage, not a junkyard.
Yep.
Yep. The end.
So, yeah.
So
cool.
nothing happened this week in Drift News, right? Nothing. No one revealed
Nothing
a
has
thing.
been leaked.
Except so let's talk about the Falcon liveries first, because
Okay.
I'm confused about. So we saw on people's grams like these little cards.
Yeah.
These
they're,
what is Bulls? I don't even know what Bulls is.
It's like a novelty store that sells
Bowls?
Other than bowls, they also sell pins.
Okay.
Okay.
So we saw on there Falcon had already released that they're going hard in FD again, which is very good news to have.
Yeah, it's great.
More people going hard in FD, but they said that we're going to have 2 cars with unique livery, which is Gucci and Dai,
Yep.
and then 2
Wait,
cars.
Gucci's
with,
not on Falcon.
He's on Team Falcon.
Ken Gucci.
Yeah.
You joking?
Gucci's Nexon.
No, dude.
It's that was like the
Corey, where have you been, buddy?
big news, bro.
What? Is that real?
Yeah.
Let me see. Is that
Corey. Oh, we dropping bombs on Corey right now?
Oh, it says yeah. No,
Oh.
I think Corey's right for some
I just
reason.
dropped bombs on you guys.
Ah. Oh, do you know what? Yeah, I got confused.
Wait.
I just,
So-
yeah.
Okay. So
Okay, so this is there's Falcon cars next to his. This
Well,
is
that's-
confusing.
because
I look like a fool.
yeah.
Corey's right. I am wrong. My bad. It was right next to the Falcon cars. I was trying to branch them all into one. Why
What
are
was
they
the
all-
relationship?
Yeah,
I think it
what is the relationship here? So anyway, we're talking about these photos that were leaked or whatever the hell of the
Revealed.
the reveal of Odie's car being on Falcon and Field's car being on Falcon, and they're right next to Gushi's car. What is their relationship? Why are they all together in this situation?
Well, between Gucci and Dai, they're easily confused. They look the
Here we
same.
go.
So,
But Dai's there too.
Yeah, Dai's on Falcons.
Okay, so Dai's
Right.
Falcons, Gucci is Nexon. I am wrong, 100%. My bad.
I mean, like the only relationship between Gucci and Dai would be that they're both driving.
And I've confused one for the other in Las
Similar
Vegas
chassis.
at a party. Not a big deal.
Yeah.
But the news here is that we have some Falcon blue or teal and blue and teal. What do you call it?
Yeah.
Blue and
Yeah.
teal.
yeah.
Did we have anyone on blue and teal like actual Falcon last year?
I think the last Falcon Blue and Teal may have been Darren McNamara in the S14.
Yeah, so we haven't seen it.
No, JTP on the Mustang as well, isn't it?
No, he was black last year. So
We
it was
just-
2 years ago. Yeah.
We just haven't seen it in a while, so that's pretty cool to see that back in
Yep.
FD. Fields going hard.
Odie,
And Odie with no
Odie-
bumper.
Yep.
Paco, why didn't you bring Odie a bumper? Because he's running 2F performance
Okay,
stuff.
yeah, that's a lot of people was calling that out, but he has a bumper. It's
Look,
just half
I mean,
a bumper.
it's cool for you to support him, but it's really a dick move to not support him all the way enough
or
to give him a bumper.
some bad joke.
Actually, he asked me like, instead of the rear bumper, can you just like give me two fronts? Like,
Oh, hello,
okay.
can I have-
I thought he was gonna put the front bumper in the rear, but apparently not.
You probably just gave him half off on cost.
Give us your Odie impersonation.
Hello,
Sam.
I'm OD. No, that's not how he talks
Can
at
you
all.
give me half a bumper?
He talks like Yoda.
Half a bumper you have.
Must bumper have if you send one.
This is terrible. What are we doing?
Odie,
Sorry,
Odie and Matt Field look like sisters from Other Misters in that
Right.
picture.
Well, actually, they were the stars of that show, Sister Sister, which
Yep.
was canceled, unfortunately, so that's how they got into
So
drifting.
that's how that adds up. Yeah, Matt Field's car looks cool, even though it's a traditional Falcon
But I like
livery.
how he's got the yellow
with
under.
the little yellow accent,
Yep.
and even the door handle's yellow,
Yep.
but it still has all the doof.
Is
It's
that
got
because
the-
he's
the
Pennzoil, or
panels.
he's just doing yellow?
No, he likes that's like his highlighter.
Oh, I guess he's
that's
always
his
had highlighter
signature
shit, yeah.
color. Yeah.
And he doesn't have Ninja Star wheels anymore. He's got actual wheels.
And it looks like they're sharing quite a bit of sponsors. Like I didn't see Matrix 8. Was it Matrix 8 is old?
Made
too?
it, or the casino?
Yeah, I didn't see big Matrix 8 on there, but I do see a large Arc Performance, which is
Oh,
Odie's
that's right,
primary
they're
sponsor.
They're both on Arc now.
So it looks like they're sharing a lot of similarities between it.
So this is like the year of the teammates, because
It might be.
we also just released that finally Chelsea and Vaughn are together.
Yep.
So they've been going steady for a while, and now they've gone Facebook official.
Well, I was sorry. I was just looking at a picture of Odie and Matt, and Matt's nickname is Beast of the East.
Yep.
Odie's is going to be Niece of the
The
With
least,
the yeast.
the least of the
West.
East,
What's Odie's nickname going to be now?
the wicked Botchkus of the West. I don't know.
So, anyways, sorry. Back to Chelsea and
Yeah,
Vaughn.
so
I'll
we're
just-
talking about all the couples. So like it's been a good year for going tandem with your bros.
Valentine's Day come early.
Yep.
Came early for everybody.
So
Made the couples.
we've had hints. We've seen them together. We've seen them holding hands at SEMA.
Yep.
And now finally it is Facebook official. Vaughn and Chelsea are going steady.
I actually read it on one of those magazines, the gossip magazines. What's it called? Like
Teen Bop.
yeah, one of those. Like
Yeah. Jonathan Taylor Thomas
they-
Heartthrob, and
Uh-huh.
then
Chelsea DeNofa.
Chelsea DeNofa, new Heartthrob
the
with Vaughn.
they're calling it what's it the Getinofa.
Yeah, so I'm trying to figure out. I've been really struggling because we've got Turkey Burger.
Yep.
Team Turkey Burger, Turk and
Yep.
Forsberg.
Turkberg.
And then we got Getnofa. I don't know, man. Because that was Matt, or not.
The-
that was
the-
Matt.
what
Matt
about
Powers was
Fonzie?
like, get over it,
The
deal with it, and so now we have
Well, now we need
Get-
Odie and Field. Otimus Buttfield.
field kisses.
Field Kid.
Backfield.
What about field kisses?
Backfield.
And then who else?
Field cheese.
Field Cheese?
Field cheese?
Field cheese.
Okay.
Or I like field kisses. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go with
field-
that.
Okay. Field kisses. Then I heard a rumor, but I don't know if it's true that Kaufman and
Alec.
Honadale
Yep.
are gonna be teammates.
Team 10-year-old.
Coffadale. That's a teen heartthrob.
Team kids bop.
I'm trying to think of a nickname.
Who else is?
No, let's talk about hold on, before we get too deep in the nickname.
Okay.
Let's talk about Vaughn and Chelsea. So Chelsea is going to be in, I believe, a nearly identical. I was not there for the shoot, unfortunately.
The only difference I think is like the coilover brand and Like whoever
It-
whoever sponsor they have that is particularly on certain parts.
Yeah,
But other than that, he said it was exactly the same.
which is going to be pretty cool that they're
Yeah.
running the same car, and except for one's purple, and one is deserty.
I really like the purple. I think it looks better than Vaughn's, in my opinion.
Wow, that's messed up.
I mean, I'm just saying. I the purple really brings the Mustang's shape and a lot better than the grayish.
Yeah, I saw the photos
gold
of
wheels.
Vaughn's car. No humble brag. Saw the photos of
Oh.
Vaughn's car a couple months ago. I was like, I think this is cool. But now looking at it further, I do really like it. I am excited
like it
about
too.
Chelsea's car though, because it's crazy to see that livery that was on a broken, beat up BMW,
Yep.
and now it's on one of the most prepared Fords ever made.
As I was saying, I think one of the drivers who deserved a brand new car the most out of everybody was definitely Chelsea.
I may have made a $20 bet though, even though we're on the same team now. I did make a $20 bet though that he might be totaling the car in Long Beach. I didn't say total. No, I lied. I didn't say total. I just said maybe because Chelsea, bless his heart,
Yep.
drives the hell out of cars
Yep.
in a good way. Sometimes he gets into walls,
Yeah.
and Long Beach has a few of them.
Yep.
Last year, everybody got in the wall. So
I'm just curious to see how I was going to drive because it's like seeing I'm losing names from Corey who was on Forsberg's team after you. This is embarrassing.
Castro and Stoneback.
Castro, yeah, it's like seeing Castro go into the wall at Long Beach
that was
because he's in Forsberg's car essentially. Forsberg owns the car.
no.
He's
That was Stoneback.
Was that
Stone?
Stone-
No, I'm talking Castro.
Okay. Go ahead.
And he went into the wall hard at Long Beach as well.
Yep.
They both
okay.
did.
Yep. I remember that.
And then he drove like a little wuss for the rest of the season
A sissy
because he was afraid. I think he was afraid of wrecking the car again. I'm sorry, Castro, if you're listening to this. I don't think he does.
I don't think he did, man. Like that battle, Castro versus Forsberg.
I think he was
It's
so
badass.
he's back now. He's back, of course. But I think that
That-
for
that-
the rest of that season,
or
That
rest of
was
that
during
event.
that season.
No, rest of that event.
the rest of the event, he was
well,
he was
yeah.
afraid of the walls. So it's like I'm curious. I don't think Chelsea's going to be afraid to put that car into a wall. Is what all I'm trying to say here is I think that he's going to drive like a demon, like he always does. And he won Long Beach last year.
Yep.
So he's coming back as the reigning Long Beach champion, and his car last year was a like garage built, running on 5 cylinders BMW
Yep.
that didn't work for the rest of the season.
And then he got a even worse V8 halfway through the season, which I don't even think he turned a few laps in.
I thought it was
Yeah.
just like
And that Irwindale, he drove Odie's S14 and crashed
Right.
that too.
so we're gonna see.
Yeah.
We're gonna see what Chelsea does. I'm super pumped. I'm sorry if you ever listen to this, Chelsea, that I said you're gonna go into the wall. You're not gonna. I have to work with that guy now.
I'm
That
I'm
sucks.
definitely rooting
Yeah.
for him. I think he's gonna be the wild card.
Who's
to
gonna
watch
win the
this
first
year.
Chelsea and Vaughn
Hey,
battle?
outside of that though,
Well, hold on, real quick,
Okay.
before we deviate. Who's gonna win the first Chelsea versus Vaughn?
does Chelsea want a job after that or no?
That's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
What do you do? What do you do when you go up against your boss?
I'll be like, won't go into gear. I can't.
Oh, my transmission's broken.
Yeah, something just
You should
snapped.
win the championship.
Something just snapped on it. Something snapped.
Yeah.
Or I'll just pull up the line sleeping.
Oh, it's gone. All right, well,
He took off without me. But what was I going
Corey?
to say? No, he took me out of my thought asking that.
You had a
Sam
new-
interruption. God,
It's back.
what a jerk.
All right.
Well, guess show's over.
I'm trying to think. Oh well.
Well, okay, we got
it'll come back.
Falcon liveries. We
Yep.
got Gitanofa.
Yep.
We have
Turkey burger.
Turkey burger.
You have Honda handlebar and cough hole.
Yep, and you've got who's running the Honda Civic this year?
Oh god, the SI.
Yep, Honda
Yep.
Civic SI. I think that Peter
Gabriel.
Gabriel is coming in this year. He's got a Honda Civic SI.
Oh, and then you still have the Irishman, which is a team too. Dean Kearney and Peter Panny Eater.
Peter.
yeah, Peter Diener.
Something like that.
Peter Diener. And then this show is coming out Tuesday morning.
Yep.
We're filming this on Sunday. And a bunch of people on the internet have been posting pictures of this mom showing up at Batch's / Albertsons / Safeway / Vons, whatever you have in your
Yep.
in your city. They're showing up and this car is yellow and black.
Yep.
And it looks like a town and country, maybe.
Yeah.
I think it's a town and country.
I thought
It could be.
So everyone knows at this point when the show's being released, but today on Sunday, the internet and the Instagrams are aflame with Frederick Osbo's new car because it has
Right.
not been released. It's supposed to be released on Monday, I believe.
Yep.
But there's a bunch of pictures going out because it's at NASCAR, and I think it's a town and country, right?
I think it's a Honda Fit.
It's a Honda Fit.
I was gonna say an Aris.
Yaris.
Yaris. Thank you.
Yaris.
I was going to say
Nice.
that, or it's going to be a Geo Metro.
Well, the good news is
It's
that
a Renault Clio.
the good news is that there's no one within our vicinity that can give us any sort of insight
No.
on it. So
Nope.
we are going to shut the show down early. It's been a really good episode, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week after Long Beach, and we're going to probably
figure
not
out, figure out what's up with Oswald. Should we ask your cat?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to go to bed. See you guys later.
All right, let's
All
see
right.
here.
I mean,
Oh, well, so much. That was pretty easy to replace Sam. Tricked him. Hey, Sam, are
Well,
you going to
Sam's
go to
gone.
Sam's leaving. Oh,
Hi.
Oh, well, hey, how are you?
Pretty good, guys.
hi,
Oh,
hi, new Sam.
What are you doing, new Sam?
Just walking by, and I heard that there's a Driftcast going on, so
Oh, that's
decided to
so
drop
cool.
in and check
Do
it out.
Do you have as many as bad jokes as Sam does?
I'm a new dad, so I got this. I don't know if you guys know, but when you become a dad, you get a little booklet of dad jokes.
Nice.
And so I've been brushing up on my dad jokes.
Perfect.
Paco, tell him that one dad joke.
Why did the chicken cross the road?
Oh, of course. Why is Paco?
Because
There was a Michelob Ultra half drinking that he needed to finish
the
on the
other
other side.
side.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was
Oh,
a good
Sam
dad
is
joke.
back.
So Sam is now back. But anyways, guys, who we have joining us, in case you can't see, this is Chris Matty.
How do you say your last name? Mathieu?
You can go matey, like a pirate.
Matey.
Matey. Arr,
Oh, Mighty.
hey.
Mighty.
And he is the marketing director for AM Induction System.
Not quite. I wish I was.
We're just Chris, roll with me
Okay,
here,
I'm
okay? We hype things up
We have
more
to
than
hype
they
it
need to
up.
be here. So Chris, we just call him the shot caller. We call him the leader of the dad jokes. We call him a fellow friend. We call him a first-time caller, first-time shower upper. But anyways, it's funny that you're here because we were just talking about this new Honda Fit coming into the Formula Drift season this year. You know anything about it, or what's?
I did hear something a while ago, and I think we can officially talk about it now. It's is it Freddy's?
Oh,
Yeah,
Oh.
it might be.
also known as Stonejaw Osbo.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's his.
Yeah. So he will be this year. He'll be with Toyota again,
Okay.
and he will be driving a Corolla.
Wow.
Corolla IM.
What?
Yeah. So we'll see another Corolla back in FD. It's been a
Was
while.
there a Corolla in FD before?
Maybe.
I mean,
a couple,
like Corolla A86.
I'm just trying to think. My Corolla, if I was an FD, would be like a champagne color, factory wheels.
Hubcaps.
Yep, with hubcaps. Other than that, yeah,
Automatic.
she'd be bone stocker. But yeah, it'd be great to have another one back.
Absolutely.
So is this like, are they kind of like trying to channel the A86
I believe so.
thing?
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
this is a hatchback.
A
but it-
5-door hatch. Yeah.
Yeah, but it also looks more like a WRC or Global Rally Cross car. But I mean, it's just I was expecting something more on the lines of a Lexus RCF or.
Yeah, I've heard mumblings of a Supra
Uh-huh.
or an RCF.
But
And-
then
Well, just to get this straight, you sponsor Oswald Team, you work with them pretty
Right.
closely, right? So,
Right.
so how long do you believe like the rumors and things of these crazy cars that they've been developing? How long has it been going on, or how long have you been knowing about this?
I think I knew a couple months ago. Yeah.
I can't
I
imagine.
think it
It
was a
was-
very well kept secret. Usually, this kind of stuff leaks right away, and it barely just.
Yeah, I think there's just a handful of people that actually knew what kind of car it was, and no one is really saying anything at all.
So when they came up to you, it's like, hey, Chris, we want to put your sticker on a Corolla. What do you say? Were you like, what would I want on a Corolla? Like, what was your first and
Okay, so it's a funny story. So, talking to Steph because he's team owner.
right?
Just going back and forth, and we're like, so we're gonna do the same deals last year, right? And okay, cool, yeah, that sounds good. And then so we kind of pretty much got everything locked in. I already had committed, and he's like, oh, by the way, like I forgot,
Right.
we're running a Corolla IM this year. I was like, okay, and I'm like googling it like real quick, what's a Corolla
What does it
IM?
look like?
And so Steph goes into detail about it, and it's I guess there's a Japanese variant that's all-wheel drive, which fits into the
Wow.
how they can get it in the FD.
Huh.
So they weaseled you in saying, oh, hey, do you know what? Get us on the sponsor. You're like, cool, man. They're like, oh, now that that's figured out. Hey, it's a Corolla, by the way. And you're like, well, fuck.
Yeah, I mean, it's
So next year, Chris, hey, so heads up next year, I'm going to be driving a twin V8
Single charged.
single charged turboed El Camino. Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
Let's do it.
Yeah, but actually, I'm driving a Paco's Buick Riata, but I want to sell you on that first. But
No, see, Steph is, I mean, in my opinion, one of the best
Absolutely.
innovators. An
Yep.
amazing mind, mechanical mind. And Osbo, I mean, he can drive anything, and
Right.
he's competitive. And so you don't count him out. You know, it's a Shell, it's a Toyota.
yep.
I know some people might not be too jazzed about, you know, being a Corolla IM, but you know, it's Toyota's in the business of selling cars.
So here's the funny thing is I actually did some research on the car when I figured it out,
Yeah.
and the wheelbase is over. I believe it's over 100 inches, or
It's
it-
102.
100. Yeah, it's almost. Is it? I think it's might be at a 240.
Well, it's
or-
a 4-door, so
Yeah.
it's
So the
slightly
wheel.
longer.
I thought it was gonna be like a Miata. I thought it was gonna be like this little rinky dinky thing. But like you look at the wheelbase, it's not too bad out of the range. It's very comparable to what a lot of drift cars are currently. And then also it shares a lot of similarities and parts as the TC supposedly.
Right. Same motor that they're using.
Same motor, and I'm assuming we'll get more from somebody else. But I heard it's very from somebody else. I don't know. We might get a call here in a little bit. But yeah, I heard it may have been an easy transition, and that's why I don't think we count them out. Like you said, Steph and Osbo have been working together for quite some time, and they've always had
They have a great team.
great team, super successful. So even if they were saying, "Hey, we're going to build a Corolla this year," nobody would doubt that they're going to do really well. Yeah, it's kind of cool.
Wow. Sam, you want to say anything while you're down there?
No.
Okay.
Keep the ball rolling.
Sam, sorry for taking your seat.
Yep.
I have a lap here.
I thought that we were ending the show.
Yo, we're wrapping up now. We're not going to take any phone calls. So we're pretty much.
It's gotta be a shorty, because we have to pack for Long Beach.
We appreciate you for coming out
Yeah,
and
so-
kind of giving us a quick.
So, you know, funny thing is, I had a really similar dream to what you had last night.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. You know, the pillow fight. and,
Crazy, man.
Yeah, Paco on his motorcycle.
Wow.
Yeah.
I guess
really funny
everybody's
coincidence.
dreaming of me, huh? Crazy.
So, you know what? So, I saw you guys have this, and excuse my voice, I've been sick.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for getting us.
Little
No
too much karaoke last night. I saw your white helmet back here. Bare bones.
Paco, here, move out of the way real quick.
Yeah.
You can't even see it because it blends in.
And I
Oh, there it
thought-
is.
I thought we could maybe do something about it. So
Throw it away.
actually went down to the swap meet, and I
Oh.
found a new, slightly newer helmet. That we can
What?
maybe give you guys as a gift.
No
and
way.
Aw.
token of our appreciation.
I hope it's a bag of rocks and he dumps it on the table.
Yeah. So this
No
guy, he
way.
had this, and I like, you know what? That's pretty
What?
cool. It's the same colors.
Look at
as our
that.
company colors.
What?
So I got this AM helmet here. Brand
Are
new
you serious?
Maximum
What?
Drift Gas logo on the back. So,
How awesome is that?
Look at this thing.
so just don't drop it off the ledge like the last.
Who painted this thing? It's custom airbrush too. That's
Yeah, no,
all-
this is full. It's custom paint. Haney Designs. He does a lot of custom helmets. He actually used to work for what's that painter out in
Troy Lee?
Troy Lee. Yeah,
What?
he was like one of Troy Lee's first employees.
No way.
Super talented painter. Yeah.
And between Paco and Sam, sneak peek, guys, I got a little look at this probably 3 days ago.
Oh.
And the cool thing about it, this helmet was sitting next to Ron Capps' helmet. For you guys who don't know who that is, he's a famous Top Fuel funny car racer. So the same guy that paints Ron Capps' Top Fuel helmet, this was getting painted at the same time. So really stoked once again for Maximum Driftcast to be part of the AM team, AM Intake Induction Systems team. And Chris,
So badass.
thank you for giving us a great helmet piece so we can get rid of Sam's
Absolutely,
shitty 20
guys.
pound helmet.
We just got substitute Sam's entirely.
Let's
with,
set that
with
right
the
here.
helmet.
Let's put that right here
Yeah.
because I don't want that thing to knock
Exactly.
off the
of the ledge.
Look at that. Awesome,
Thanks,
dude.
man. That was
Thanks, Chris.
Pretty
You're welcome, guys.
badass.
Awesome. So, anyways, Sam, I need Sam back because we need to talk about something. Chris.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, Sam's back.
Chris is gonna go on the behind the scenes.
Chris is
literally.
gonna be now our producer.
He's,
Thanks, Chris.
Hey,
Hey, anything
Sam,
happen?
do you
Anything
want-
happen while I was gone?
Hold this, Sam. What do you
What
think
is
of it?
this?
It's a replacement for your shitty
For
white
the
helmet.
audio people only, what we have here is a hand painted helmet.
We'll post
a,
a couple pictures
sweet-
of it. It's
Sweet
so-
Maximum Driftcast logo on it as well.
Do you want to hand that back so I can?
No, it's mine now.
Oh, you're gonna go next Drift Garage episode. Sam's gonna have a brand new AM helmet.
Corey, what the hell did you want from me?
Okay, so we were talking about Osbo's new rig,
Yep.
his new race car, and I didn't know if you knew anything about this because usually they're pretty good at behind the scenes stuff. So I was kind of saying, hey, does Sam know anything about it more than we do?
Yeah, I know everything. What do you want?
How many horsepowders is it making?
How many powders? All right,
all the
so
powders.
let's be. I'm going to be Franklin with you right now. Are you ready?
Yep.
None.
Really?
Yeah.
What's
it's a
the
really
strategy?
controversial move this year. Frederick Assboats. He's. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, AM. He's going with a controversial choice this year to do 0 horsepower, which I'm not sure I can get behind, to be fair.
Well, somebody does.
Yeah.
Somebody has to get behind them because the only way they're going to pick up steam is if they do.
Yeah, I've heard about that. Yeah, so he's counting on the tandem people who are just going to push him through each event, which is strange and controversial, and I'm not sure I like it, to be fair.
Maybe this is our
And
big
you know
break.
what? I felt like Sam was
Whoever this is, don't listen to him. I have all the facts.
All right,
I
here we
have. Hello, caller. May I ask who's calling?
Hi, this is Stefan Papadakis.
Oh shit!
Looking for a drift idiot.
Oh, great.
God.
Okay. Well, Stefan,
He's here.
Stefan, I was just telling all of our fans all the facts about Osbo's new car, which I'm sure are correct. I'm not getting anything wrong, and it's going to be making 0 horsepower, right? No.
Yep.
Well, I guess
Sorry, I'm getting rid of a call.
Yep.
Crazy, that's crazy, dude. New car, similar actually engine and stuff from last year. We're starting Long Beach with sort of the same engine package because we were trying not to get too many things different, for the first event.
Right. Except for the entirely new car.
Entirely new, right? So we got to pick our battles here.
Right.
Uh-oh.
So this show is going to air Tuesday morning. We're filming right now on Sunday, and this morning I've already seen a ton of crap on the internet, as I'm sure you have, that people are kind of figuring out what Osbo is going to be driving.
Yeah, so we knew that was going to happen because Toyota really wanted us to go to this NASCAR event at Fontana, and the car was going to be sort of debuted there, which is cool. And then we have our own debut video. It's a super short, 26-second debut of. It's a remake of the Initial D intro. So we thought it'd be funny and fun to just sort of pretend that Frederick was the Initial D guy and just kind of remake it.
Oh man,
but
I'm so mad. I wanted that idea.
Tongue in cheek, though.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's cool.
I can't wait to see it. Well, I mean, we've already seen it now on Tuesday. We're going to pretend like we've already seen it, and it's so good.
I never heard of anybody trying to pretend to be the Initial D driver at all.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Initial D, for those that haven't heard of it, is a anime from Nippon.
Manga.
Yeah, it's a manga.
Manga.
So now we can say it. We can finally say it. We don't need to dance around anymore. Frederick Osbo is driving a Toyota Corolla IM. Is that correct?
That's perfect. Yeah.
It's a Corolla. Is it called that in America?
Yeah. So it's being re-released now. It used to be the Scion IM,
right?
And now it's going to be the Toyota Corolla IM.
And aside from Toyota saying, "Hey, please drive this car," why are you going with this car?
Yeah, honestly, we were thinking we were going to build the 86 up until about the beginning of January, and at the last minute, Toyota thought it would be interesting if we did something different. And in hindsight, I think it was I think it's good. I think it's good. I think there's enough 86s out there. I think it's been done to death. I think they look good. I like the Toyota 86.
But there's probably 6 or 7 of them in FD right now.
Yeah, and our team has always been like this. We kind of pride ourselves on kind of development and these unique projects that our skill set can develop. So I like the idea of a little bit more of a harder chassis to figure out and even an engine that will continue to try to develop and be competitive. So I have fun with it. I come from, the automotive aftermarket. I come from 4-cylinder turbocharged.
Yeah. Well, I want to get into
trying to compete against the V8.
I have so many questions about all that, which I want to get into, of course. But does Toyota not know that it's not easy to just take a car that's all-wheel drive or front-wheel drive and then turn it into a drift car? So you said up until December or so you're planning on building an 86, and they're like, oh hey, here's a front-wheel drive car. Make that a drift car, which obviously you guys have done before, and you've done it with some success, I would say.
Yep.
But do they not know that that's a difficult thing to do? I mean, that sounds like a crazy build. Once again, you're taking a car that's not meant to drift and making it drift.
Yeah, they do know, and They know they don't care.
Yeah.
They want to see one of those cars drift.
Yeah, right.
Now, Steph, so what's the similarities between the prior chassis, the TC, to this one? Was it something that was they shared a lot of similarities, or is it something like, well, shoot, we're starting from scratch again?
Yeah, we got super lucky that it's based on the same architecture, like
cool.
as far as suspension pickup points, and we actually started the build with the spare suspension arms from the TC from last year. So the crossovers are slightly different, the way that they mount up and such, and we had to modify all of the new IM parts to stay totally legal. But the suspension stuff, the stuff that's open for the rules, like for FD, you're allowed to do whatever you want on the suspension arms and like knuckles and such.
Right. But
the cross members need to stay stock, and those pickup points need to be stock. But those are actually almost identical to the TC.
What about weight balance in comparison to the TC?
Yeah. Okay. So what are some other specs here? So the TC is 106-inch wheelbase. The IM is 102, slightly shorter, but we think it's in the sweet spot. 102 inches wheelbase is pretty good. It's a little bit higher center of gravity just because of the hatchback, and it's a little bit taller. It's a couple inches taller car even. And the overall car size, it's interesting because we always think, IM or like hatchback car to being like some small compact, but when you park it next to an 86, it's bigger than a Toyota 86. It's almost as big and similar wheelbase to like a Mustang. I mean, these are not small cars.
Yeah, new compact cars are bigger than like an S14, for example. Like that car was not a small car in 1995, let's say, but now in comparison to a Mustang, it's just dwarfed by the size of a new Mustang.
Yeah, and I don't know how technical you guys want to get in this.
Let's get deep.
Let's get it. Let's dig it.
To these cars,
I want to get inside the brains.
So these cars that have a transverse engine in the front, so like a front-wheel drive or they have relatively wide frame rails, and that can help you and hurt you. One way it can help you is just wider, so you have room for headers and all the stuff under the hood and the engine components and stuff.
A lot easier to
but
work
where
with.
it can hurt you is where you have issues with the front wheels at maximum angle hitting the frame rail.
Interesting.
Yeah, I imagine if it goes too far out, then that can be a limiting factor. But we actually
real quick before going away from that, you're not allowed to cut that, or you don't want to cut that because you don't want to.
You're not allowed to cut that.
Okay.
No, you're not allowed to modify the frame rails, and we don't.
Right.
And also, but that seems to be the problem with GT86 people, because that car originally has a boxer engine, which makes the frame even wider, and that's why we have all these crazy.
Wise fat poke.
Yeah. Crazy.
The poke, yeah.
Yeah, well, okay.
That's what you call it, right? I mean,
well, the technical, the actual term is the wider track.
Yeah. I guess it's
yeah. So I think there's a couple of bad parts about the Toyota 86 for drift. So the frame rails are wide, but yeah, that limits the steering, the wheel clearance. So then they have to go super wide front track. But if you look at the frame rails on a Toyota 86, they actually taper in towards the firewall. So it's really bad for like header clearance and such. So it's not actually a very good engine bay for drift. I don't believe.
Yeah, and not to fall too far down the 8.6 hole, because we were talking about a very different car at the IM here. But I was also having a conversation with someone the other day about how you're not allowed to change suspension coilover mounting points, of course.
Right.
And I had heard that the rear travel length is very short.
An FRS.
Yeah, on an FRS 8.6, whatever you want to call it. Is that true?
Yeah.
Does
So we'll go back to IM. So the IM is really good. It's got a McPherson front suspension, which is well sorted. It's the same as our TC, and we've got a really good steering. Frederick's really happy with our steering geometry in the front, so we just kept that, and we still use the Toyota Supra, like late model Mark IV or Toyota Supra rack and pinion.
Nice.
And that's been really reliable and just worked really well. The rear suspension is a trailing arm design.
Yeah.
Think of like a single sort of swing arm, I guess. And I found that actually works really well. I think it's good for grip. And so it's got a trailing arm rear suspension. It's got this interesting 5-link. So I think the geometry is actually quite good for rear-wheel drive and drift. It's because these cars really are a global platform. And the RS, which is the same as the IM in Europe and Japan, is available in a 4-wheel drive. So they designed these suspensions for for all kinds of use.
So, I mean, the big question, though, is that when you think of your Toyota factory-ish team, you would use an 8.6. How is this car better than an 8.6? Or I don't, of course, want you to say bad things about the car you're using, but is it better than an 8.6 for drift geometry? Or are you just kind of forced into it?
Yeah, understood.
Yeah.
If I had my pick and ultimate performance, I think the Toyota 8.6 is a lighter weight car for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a lower center of gravity. I think with a little bit more work, though, suspension could be as good as anything. So that's probably a better starting point.
Right.
Right.
What
but
are the,
I'm not saying that we couldn't get this IM after another year or so of development to that level.
what are the benefits of the IM?
The benefits of the IM are it's got a good engine bay, good steering clearance in the front so you can have a lot of angle and not have a super wide track width.
Right.
The wheelbase, I think, is in perfect, 102 inches. I really like the rear suspension design again with the rear trailing arm design. And it doesn't have a lot of camber gain through the travel, so that's quite good as well. My crew guys like the back doors.
Nice.
I was gonna say, access to the car must be magical. Like the rear, is the rear suspension just open and exposed from like the back hatch? Like can you pop that thing and then get at all the top of the rear suspension?
Yep. Yeah.
Nice.
So there's a few advantages there. And it's unique. I mean, we're the IM team. Who else has a Corolla IM in
Right.
drift? So
Well, you were the TC team before because no one else had that either.
yeah. So we're gonna have the fans, and we're gonna have the haters, and that's fine.
Yeah.
So with that engine bay being very big up front, are you still running the radiator and intercooler up front?
Just the intercooler. The radiator's in back. And the reason we do that is not because we don't have room. It's because we're trying to get more weight over the rear wheels to try to get some more rear grip.
Now, with the car being like a hatchback or a wagon,
yeah.
how does it get flow, or did you like kind of back half the car? What did you do to get the radiator in the back?
Yeah, I was curious about
We
that.
have like it's like a double firewall. So the radiator sits where the back of the rear seats would be. So if you're sitting in the back seat and you kind of like sit back, that's where the radiator sits.
Huh.
And then we create like this firewall around it, and then a second firewall in front of it for the cold. So there's three areas. There's the cabin for the driver, and there's an area in front of the radiator where the cold air goes into the front of the radiator.
Okay.
And then there's a third area that's behind the radiator where all the hot air comes out. And currently the way we have it set up is you can't actually see, like Frederick can't see out of the rear view mirror in the middle of the car because we have a firewall that goes all the way up to the top.
Really? Who needs to see that though? I mean, if
Yeah, some of the guys do that.
Yeah.
I think Matt Field and I think Forsberg's new car.
Yeah, and Turk
There's
and
a
all
lot
these
of
guys,
cars
they
that
have
are
these
sort of doing that.
huge rear radiator ducts so you can't see back anyways. But who needs to see the guy you're leaving in your smoke anyways? Screw that guy.
Totally.
Yeah, smoke doesn't even help anyway. So
So how's it getting air? That's my curious
Yeah.
thing. Is it getting air through ducts on the side? Is it getting air through the ducts on the roof? How are you getting air to this radiator?
We're getting air from ducts on the floor, so it gets air from where the rear seat passengers would sit.
Interesting. So up
So I
and under the
calculated-
bottom of the car, so you're getting all that smoky. Not that it matters, of course.
no,
but
but it's on the front of the
It's
tires.
all but
Yeah.
when you're driving forward, it's not because it's all in front of the rear axle.
yeah, I meant
Yeah.
from the other
Not necessarily.
driver, but it doesn't really matter. For some
Yeah,
reason,
we've already tested with it.
yeah,
The cooling system works really well.
interesting.
So what I did was I calculated. So the TC has two 4-inch round ducts from those rear quarter glass.
ducts.
So I just calculated the area of each one of those, right? And then we made it larger. The air that comes into the radiator now in the what would you call it? Maybe the floor
Yeah.
is more area than those two 7-inch ducts.
So this actually might be a good
Yeah.
time.
And these drift cars, they're sideways.
Yeah.
These things are not being cooled by the air coming through the front grille or anything like that.
Right.
They're so sideways that the fans
You've got
do
huge fans.
probably
pulling.
90% of the cooling in them.
Yeah. I think this is possibly, we're going to keep on talking about the IM, I'm sure, throughout the show, but this is a good time to maybe go back in time. So you are one of the, correct me if I'm wrong here, you're one of the forefathers of import drag racing, right? You were there at the beginnings of trying to make 4-cylinder Civics and shit fast, right?
Yeah.
I mean, without tuning your own
So I
horn,
wasn't
but
the first, and
yeah.
But yeah, it came from, I was 16 years old and wanted to race my car, and I didn't have any money when I was 16 to go to the racetrack and have a road race, or
Yeah.
a dad that was into racing. So I had friends that went to the street races, and what we did at the street races was drag racing,
Yeah.
and that's what I got into.
That's where we
So-
all started.
So you were. What was your? All right, let's go back to the very start. What was your first car?
So my first car was a 1991 Honda Civic SI. And to give
Nice.
some context
That's
here,
pretty sweet, though.
this is in year 1993, I think.
So
That's when I
he-
turned
So she
16.
was fresh and
Yeah,
new.
yeah.
Sweet
A
car.
brand new '91 SI, which is, I'm sure, even kids today are looking for this car. Of course.
Well, Steph shows up to school.
Yeah,
they're
it was-
like,
it was
"There's
2
Steph in
years
his new
used.
car."
Was it a
Yeah,
hatchback?
it was 2 years used when I got it. Yeah, it was a Civic SI hatchback,
Nice.
black. When my mom helped me when I was choosing cars, I wanted a Mustang or a Camaro,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I was not about to get I was not about to get a Camaro or a Mustang for my first car. My family didn't work like that.
Yeah.
And a Honda Civic seemed like a nice, economical choice.
And then you
right?
trick them
But little
into
did
the
they
SI.
know there
Yeah.
was this giant underground scene of modifying and racing those cars.
Yeah. And the SI is a pretty prepped car to begin with, like at least in comparison to the basic Civic. So little did they know, you're like, oh, it's just a little harmless Honda Civic, but just kidding. I need the SI, and it's already kind of made track tuned.
Yep.
So where did you go once you got that thing?
So, I don't know how much deep you want to get into this, but I was really into racing RC cars when I was
Huh.
10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Like, that's what I wanted to do professionally. I had a friend that
Yeah.
didn't even go to school. He did home study, and, like, he was an actual professional
RC car
racer.
driver?
That is the dream.
That's
Like, I
fine.
want that life.
And reason being, you don't need to be an athlete. You
Yeah.
can just sit there and eat Cheetos all day, then man the controller.
That was the deal. So, and his name is Brian Kenwald. He was a good friend. He was a few years older than I was. He had a license, but he was a professional RC car driver. And I thought, that's what I want to do. And my mom would tell me, she's like, I don't know if you want to do that. You're not going to have much of a social life. And I didn't really grasp what she meant.
She was
by
gently
that
saying
until,
that.
years later.
Yeah, that's so funny. She's gently saying, like, look, I know I've already got a nerdy kid. I mean nothing bad about that because I'm a huge nerd too. But it's like, I've already got a nerdy kid. I can't have him being an RC car pilot.
Yeah,
for
just
the rest of
Team
his life.
Losey's not hiring right
I
now.
need you to kiss a girl at some point, is what your mom's saying.
Dude, so, and it kind of went the other way, right? Ended up in like the import scene with like import models and girls
Right.
all over, and it worked out just fine.
Right.
Yes.
Nice.
Not the RC car side, but transitioning. So, to continue the story, like I was really into RC cars until I got my license, and then I was like, oh, I don't care about these at all.
Yeah,
Now
I got a
wanna
real car.
modify a real car. 'Cause when I was 13, 14, I didn't realize you could do what we were doing with RC cars to real cars and actually
Right.
go and drive it. So that's what I got really into. But when you're 16, 17, or at least I didn't have any money to work on the thing. So my friends and I, we just figured out how to work on it.
Yeah.
And messed up a bunch of stuff and blew up engines and
You threw on
and
some
put parts
mesh.
together wrong.
You throw on some mesh over the grill, and then you throw on like I'm sure you went to the auto parts store and bought an AEM intake or something, and you bragged to your friends you got 50 horsepower.
Yep. Cut the cats
So we
out
would,
of
we
it.
would be unplugging like vacuum lines and
Yeah.
it would idle like terrible, and we thought, oh, this thing's so much faster, blow black smoke, and we're like, yeah, this thing's way faster now.
Oh my God.
Little did we know we're making everything slower.
A Bud Dino
So
telling
what-
you it's faster.
What motor came stock in the 91 SI?
B18?
B, like dog 16, yeah.
But it already had a B
Single
series
overhead
motor.
cam, non-VTEC.
Okay.
It was an okay engine. It was easy to work on. There were parts available for it. It was a good starter engine for sure.
So bridge the gap here, and we can take a little bit of time, but don't because we can spend hours and hours talking about this. But how did you go from that car to making 9-second, 8-second? How was your fastest drag Civic?
Yeah, so that was my street race car. Around 18 years old, I had more tickets, and I had my license suspended longer than I actually had it from 16 to 18.
Oh my God!
So I was like, all right, this is not working out anymore.
Hell yeah! I got my license suspended
so-
from the illegals. Hold on, I still because we always got to talk about the bad shit
Yeah,
that
yeah.
we've done.
Oh, for sure.
How did you get your license suspended at the illegals? Because I got mine suspended from running from the cops at the illegals.
Is this in your Ford Probe?
No, this is yes.
Oh my
It's
God, that's why.
in my Ford Probe GT. But go on, I want to hear your license suspension story. By the way, don't do it, kids.
So we're in Ontario, and I set up a race, and we take off from the street on Etowanda. We take off, and we're street racing, and I look back, and I'm like, oh, well, someone else is following us. Like, they're trying to keep up with us. That happens sometimes in the street races.
Right.
There'd be a line of cars.
As it does, yeah.
So we get to the end, and woo, like, they freaking light me up. And I realized, oh, that was a cop following us all the way down as we're racing right now.
Yeah. So did you
So he pulls up next to me. He's like, pull over, and pull over. So I pull over, and he's like, throw your keys out of the car. And then he goes after the other guy, and I'm like, I'm good. I get my keys, I get back in the car, and I take off.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fuck, I can't take off home because I came with my buddy. So I go back to the gas station to try to find him. Well, cops are smart. I guess they do this for a living or something. They took down my license plate number. They knew the car. Like, they knew what they were doing. They're professionals.
And 16-year-old you thought you got away.
They roll me. Yeah, they roll me at the gas station where everybody meets up, and I get handcuffed, put on the curb. Like, he's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
It's like, what are you doing? So they tow the car. They actually, fortunately, did not take me to jail. They made me, I got a ride home from a friend. But I was 17 years old at the time. So I went to juvenile court for it. There was a slap on the wrist. It was like a $350 fine. And they suspended my license for like 6 months.
Wow.
Well, during that 6 months, I drove more, and I got pulled over for like speeding, and they suspended even longer. And it was just this whole terrible situation of this idiot 17-year-old kid, which I was, just not listening to these signs of like, dude, stop doing this. You're going down the wrong path.
At what point did your mom sit you down and said, Steven, have you thought about getting to RC cars?
Bringing it back. At least you can't get your license.
Hey, Stefan, let's get you back on Team Losi.
Yeah. You don't have to have a license for these. But did all that time not being allowed to drive, you just said that you still drove like a jerk. But, I mean, not being allowed to drive, did that mean that you were sitting in your garage screwing with your car? Because I'm sure you were still thinking about cars.
Yeah, and what happened was my street car turned into like this race car, and I couldn't bring it out on the street anymore. But fortunately, at the same time, the Battle of the Imports, it was this import drag racing series, started becoming. They had more of them here in Southern California. So I'd fix the car, I'd blow it up, or break a transmission or an axle or something at the drag race, and it would take 3 months to get enough money and time to fix the car again. And it just turned into a full-on race car. And I had so much trouble on the street races. And at the same time, I turned 18. There was a giant initiative in Southern California to crack down on street racing. So the fines went up. They were taking people's cars and crushing them. So I was at like this sweet spot where there was a lot of racing, but the fines weren't that bad. And then right when I started kind of turning 18, it started getting like way worse, and the fines were worse, and you know, all that stuff. And it was the universe was telling me stop doing that.
Yeah,
and the police.
Hold on,
and my mom.
If you don't mind me asking,
everybody was telling me to stop doing that.
So what year was this, and how old are you now? If you don't mind me asking.
So I'm 40.
Okay, so
that would have been like the mid 1994-ish.
This is crazy. So this is just to put this into perspective, at least for me, and then all the younger fans there. So that would make me 10 years younger, and by the time I was street racing, like things were already blown out.
Right.
Like I thought that I was still catching like some. I definitely was catching some tail end of like the cool street racing shit, but things were already way blown out by the time I got there.
Yeah.
And it was already super. Crackdown and super illegal, because you were, of course, this is almost embarrassing, but I'm also proud to say it, watching the Fast and the Furious made me street race. Like I saw the Fast and the Furious and I was like, this is fucking cool. I'm gonna go get a Probe GT in street race.
So I've got it, but
you're before that. You're
soundbite for this, right?
Yeah.
There's no. Have you ever met a professional street racer?
Oh,
have you ever met someone that has like made a living or like is somehow respected in like by other respected people in street racing?
Yeah, I wouldn't say make a living.
That guy that ends up on a reality show.
Yeah.
And I'm the fucking street racer guy with my shop or whatever. But I don't think. I mean, I don't think that's. I don't like that. That's not what I wanted to be.
Did you see the MTV?
Well, I thought that's what I wanted to be, but
yeah.
When I'm 17, I didn't know anything.
Yeah.
Did you see the MTV like True Life? I'm a Street Racer. Do you remember that? Because I don't know
I
if
was in it.
Yeah.
What?
I was gonna say you were. So that was my gentle way of bringing that up. Like I think I thought for a second here I had a spark. You were in the like MTV I'm a Street Racer, right?
Yeah, it was.
Oh
so I
my
wasn't the
God!
Street racer. I was the reformed street racer that went track racing.
Yeah.
That was going to, we brought this street racer kid who was getting in trouble and such. Same story as me, right? Getting his license suspended.
Right.
So we brought him out to the real drag racing track to kind of help us out. And then without going into the whole story, I was the reformed guy.
Yep.
And it was super cheesy.
Yeah.
And it didn't come off as very,
Cool.
you know,
I want to watch that.
cool. Yeah. And that's the hard part with doing, you know, with the legal stuff is they try to say don't do this, and they almost, in a way, make people want to do it.
Yeah, it definitely made me want to do it
Yeah.
because I was out there because I thought that these guys' lives are really cool, and the guys like crying about having 4 broken Integra transmissions on his floor and stuff. And
Right.
I'm like, I want this life
Man.
of pain to be mine.
Stefan must have had some serious street cred. How was your street cred?
Yeah, were you considered because we all know now that you've built championship drift cars and all this shit, but were you considered a cool guy?
Where
back
it
then?
matters, yeah. Street cred's what matters.
Yeah,
I think so.
that's a tough question to answer. Am I a cool guy? I don't know.
Well, but what
Yeah,
are
I mean, we can talk about this a little bit more. I've got a bunch of cool stories. So when I was 16,
Yeah,
what I did was I had this little fuel-injected car, and I found nitrous. I was in Orange County.
Yeah.
The NOS, nitrous oxide system, the original NOS guys were also in Orange County, like 15 minutes from my house. So I'd go down there, and I bought a nitrous kit, and we put it on the car, and I had this. It was all sneaky. So street racing is about, you want to beat the other guy, and there's no rules. It's whatever rules you figure out before you race.
right.
Right? So the rules are all figured out as you go. So I had this 60 horsepower nitrous dry kit. So what that means is there's just a little fogger that goes into your air intake, and it shoots nitrous in, and the fuel comes through from your injectors, and then you just have to hide the bottle and the button somewhere in the car. So I'd go to the street races and had all my rear interior out and just my front seats, because you got to pull the interior out to get lighter.
Right,
and
right.
for street cred too. You got to have
for sure.
for street cred. And then I'd hide the nitrous bottle, a 10-pound bottle, behind my driver's seat, and I'd put like a jacket over it. And it's an all-black car with all-black interior, and all these street races are at night. And I'd just be like, I don't pop the hood, but you can look anywhere in my car. I don't have a bottle. So you take a flashlight through the windows, and you kind of look around. These people aren't looking through your car like the cops.
Yeah, and no one
but
said
they're looking
what's
around
his...
looking for a bottle.
Yeah.
And there's nowhere obviously a bottle.
And no one said what's his jacket
the-
covering, but
Stefan, it's 105 outside.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
You know what's craziest? No one ever did.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And because I think it's a little, I don't know why, but no one ever did.
Yeah.
And the way that you do this, I race would be, I always go and practice my launches, because I lost so many races when I first started racing at the launch and realized I don't know how to drive. I need to practice. I need to figure this out.
Yeah.
So I'd practice a bunch, and I got my launches really well. So I figured out how to launch at like 3,000, and right when the tires start hooking, you hit the nitrous. So what I would do is I'd launch with everybody, and I'd hit the nitrous right away in first gear and get ahead, and then let off the nitrous right away.
Yeah.
So I'd get like that car lane or 2 car lanes. So it looked like I just outlaunched them, and then I'd get right off the nitrous, and then they would sit the same speed, because most of the cars had a similar power-to-weight ratio.
Right.
Yeah.
So once you launched, and if you stayed with them, they just feel like they just got beat at the launch.
Right.
So they
And
wouldn't
they
try to
wouldn't
go
really complain.
search
They're like,
for,
I guess I don't drive very well, and then I'd win. Or they'd win. So, but that's how I was losing
Yeah.
when I first started racing, because they'd outlaunch me, and then so I was like, all right, I'm going to try to do that. So anyways,
This is literally killing me though,
stuff
because you're just talking about the plot of Fast and the Furious.
This is real life.
But this happened before that, and this is real life, and so you could pretty much just say though that the filmmakers made that movie about Stefan. Sorry, I keep on saying Stefan Papadakis. Like, this movie was made about your actual life.
It's a documentary.
Which is except for the whole cop and the stealing things. Unless that is true, I don't know. Are you a cop? You have to tell me if you're a cop, dude.
Yeah, because we're not telling you anymore street racing.
Yeah, but like this movie is more or less about like the kid on the street that is trying to like make his car faster and try to practice launches in a parking lot and puts nitrous on it, and he says like, shit, I need NOS, and like goes out and gets it, and oh my god,
and beats everybody.
It's absolutely insane though that
earns a respect.
It's easy to look back on like that movie in time and like laugh about it and joke about it, but like this was your life. Like, this is your life in the 90s.
And I think it's honestly, I think it's coincidence. My story is not unique. There's a lot of street racers with a similar story back then, and back in the 70s and the 60s, and even in the late 80s, where there was people racing like the rear-wheel drive Corollas and 1986 Honda CRXs, and there was a whole generation before me. I did not invent the street races
Right.
or the front wheel drive drag racing or any of that stuff.
Beating everybody with their Iro Camaros.
Yeah, but you're there for at least our
No, but this-
generation when it
this
was
is what-
cool.
But this is what I will say. If anybody's thinking about street racing, right?
Yeah.
There were respected street racers well before I went street racing, but I didn't end up making it a career until I stopped street racing and actually did it
Right.
at the legal track.
And let's also be
So-
very clear though that like the shit that at least I did, and I'm sure you at some point, like there were close calls. Like I'm sure we almost at least killed ourselves. Maybe we almost killed someone. Like we just to be very clear, we're painting this in like a cool light, but again, it's fucking stupid, and you might kill someone. Nick Hogan, and he nearly killed his friend, or did kill his
Yeah,
friend.
yeah.
I don't know, like there's tons and tons of stories of people killing families and stuff. So don't do it. Like we were stupid and we were young, and I'm sure that there's going to be other stupid young kids out there. But I want to be very clear that we're not glamorizing this lifestyle because.
But the other thing about street
Yeah.
racing too is it, I don't want to say pioneered, but it kind of created a whole scene. So without that street racing, and to some degree, would this import racing
Yeah.
organization come out of it? It's like, you go through, you learn your lesson, and it's like, well, hey, let's create an opportunity
Yeah.
for these guys to go to the track.
But also, we
And
didn't
it's-
really have a track
well,
to go to, and now there's so many
this-
options for tracks.
Well, the story also reminds me very, very closely to Robbie Nishida's when he says, before there was drifting videos on the internet, I was just doing it because that was
Yeah.
our only way of doing it.
Yeah.
Was going to the mountain and not watching on videos. We kind of were just
yeah,
there.
you're improvising and you're doing it. But now, thankfully, there are drift nights at Irwindale. There are drag racing. If you're in California, there's tons of outlets for this shit. Don't go and kill someone, kids. I hate that we have to say this because it is fun to talk about street racing in a cool, glamorous light, and in a way it was. But don't kill someone, guys.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Don't.
Don't listen to our show and think that.
Well-
don't think you want to be Stefan because you do want to be Stefan probably to some degree, but don't.
Steph, since you start mentioning how the authorities start like cracking down the whole scene, the underground racing scene, do you think that also that was part of the catalyst that boosted all the professional events? Like there was a need for a place to do this, and car companies and manufacturers manufacturers started saying like, you know what, we need events.
Yeah,
where we can
because
get
it was more
all
dangerous
these
on the
kids.
street.
Right.
Because it was more dangerous on the street that it started going
Yeah.
legit because of that.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's part of it, and just the scene in general. Like people wanted to modify their cars and make them faster. And you want to, as someone that's an enthusiast, you want to see what the extreme of that is. So that's where the drag racing and the car show and all these things. So if you're into the modifying car scene, then you pick your event. So back then it was Hot Empire Nights was a giant car show, and arguably more popular than the drag racing event. So it wasn't all about racing. It
Right.
could have been just about audio, and people were about audio and
Flipping
paint
switches and having babes.
Yeah. Something
Totally.
that none of
yeah,
us
and that's
have.
where all the chicks were. Actually, there were a lot of chicks. There were a lot of girls at the car shows.
Yeah.
So, that's a huge attraction for a dude that's in the girls.
It seems like this is what combined everything that's cool about cars, because like before the whole import scene, if you go to the drag strip, it was kind of like the usual guys with the rear wheel drive cars and let's go drag race. But it wasn't until the import scene started hitting drag strips and going faster with front wheel drive cars and all these cars with lights and sound, and
Yeah.
it became a bigger party for everybody.
Well, it made it a youth focused sport, whereas
Yeah.
go on, sorry.
I think it went from a cult thing to actually relatively mainstream automotive. So
Yeah.
back in like the SEMA show, the SEMA show in Vegas, the big trade show every year for the aftermarket, there were obscure companies, or sometimes like a company would have a part for an import car. Maybe like MSD and Hooker Headers and Mallory and all these like traditional aftermarket companies that all did this V8 and small block stuff. They'd stick their nose up at the imports and the four cylinders.
Right.
Nah, we're not going to make any parts for that. And that was like kind of the mid 90s.
Yeah.
And then towards the late 90s, they started having a little bit more parts, and you're like, this might be, kind of happening here. And by now, it's just straight up part of the scene. It's
Yeah.
not a cult corner of the automotive aftermarket. It's straight up part of the automotive
Well,
aftermarket.
which of course the joke is that like you have to overnight parts from Japan and stuff like that. But that was true because not necessarily the overnighting, but you couldn't buy a Honda Civic exhaust in America for many years because no one would make it.
And what's funny was about that, I just remember like I wanted to get in the tuner scene
Yeah.
back in the day, and I think like D Sport was one of the magazines. There was some other tuner magazines, but I remember when Edelbrock came out with like its first intake manifold for Honda. I'm like, an Edelbrock
yeah.
old school cursive signature on an intake manifold for Honda. I'm just like,
Yeah.
why would you do
It's
that?
like they're selling
It's
out
like a
finally.
sin.
But yeah, like Stefan's right. There was years and years and years that all the American aftermarket the aftermarket companies wouldn't. They turn their nose up at Japanese cars because it was a pride thing. Honestly, they obviously as an aftermarket company you want to make parts for cars and you want to make money, but it was a pride thing. Like these kids are ruining the sport.
Right.
These kids with their 9-second or their 11-second Civics.
It was like the snowboarders.
But do you know what's
Started hitting
funny
the
is
track.
I swear Honda guys have their own language too.
Yeah.
Like I was talking to one of my buddies back in the day, and he was like a big Honda guy, and I don't know anything about Hondas, or very little. But he was like, I have a B12 with the Frankenstein
B12,
head,
sure.
with the VTEC
With the
but
white
it's like,
top.
These guys are scientists, and their own degree with switching different heads and doing all these different things. But it's their own world. It's their own type of.
By the way, a Frankenstein motor is a B head on a K series motor.
Is it?
Yeah, I know that.
I want to hear like some nerdy Honda lingo, actually.
well, hold on. This is a good
Well-
transition. We, Stefan, hold on. Let's get to
Stefan-
their point. Let's get to your point, but we do need to move on.
I want nerdy
Unfortunately.
Honda.
We do. We're going to get to drifting, but first we have to get to. So you're Stefan, your point, but then let's talk about how you went from the street to whatever your fastest. I'm just going to call it a 9-second Civic for right now. How did you get from the street to your 9-second car?
Okay, so I had this that 91 Civic that turned into a full race car and ended up putting a turbocharged 1.8 liter engine, and then later on a Prelude, a 2.2 liter turbocharged engine. Like that was my niche, were these turbocharged engine swap thing.
Mm-hmm.
But the car was getting cut up and old, and I had raced it so much. We were at NHRA Winter Nationals. So the NHRA, with their full-on-top fuels and all that stuff, allowed an exhibition of 6 import cars to run, and I was chosen as one of them, and we were running 10-second quarter miles at the time,
Awesome.
which was pretty quick which was record-breaking for front-wheel drive.
Right.
Well, Sean Carlson, I don't know if you've heard that name.
I have, yeah.
So Sean was a great fabricator and a photographer for Turbo Magazine, and I met him there, and he's like, "Oh, I could let's fix your chassis, your bent chassis, and let's try to make this thing a little bit better looking, and I think you can go faster down the quarter mile." So brought the car down to his shop in the off season, and it snowballed into like this whole tube chassis front wheel drive build.
Yeah.
And then eventually we said, why are we going to do this full tube chassis build and still keep it a 91 Civic? Why don't we just make it whatever the current Civic is? So back then it was a 1998 Civic.
Yeah.
EK. So we ended up building this full-on tube chassis thing and ended up being a very successful 9-second record-breaking front-wheel drive car. Well, Sean went on to do pretty amazing stuff. So he did the Ford Focus Maguire's front-wheel drive drag car.
Remember
There's
that
like
car.
Hot Wheels cars of that.
Yeah.
And then later on, he built a Dodge Neon front-wheel drive drag car with him. There's also Hot Wheels cars, and it was the whole Mopar thing. And he ended up driving for Pro Stock, and he ended up passing away about 8 or 9 years ago, tragically. But he was an icon in the import world during that time. So I was able to work with him, went full drag racing. I learned a lot of stuff from him for how to fabricate properly, how to have your car presentable, and have it look really good. And it wasn't just about quarter mile time. It was about this whole package. And if you want to do this professionally, then you have to have the full package.
Right. And what's giving me Paco, look at my arm. I got chills thinking about it.
And the chills.
Is that you guys and kids who listen to the show, if I take this as a lesson, is that there was not a scene for what you were doing, so you guys literally created it. Like there were not front wheel drive drag cars, and you guys liked this thing that you were doing, so you literally made it happen. Like it's crazy to think
give
about.
respect to the people that came before me. I didn't
Right, of
create
course.
anything. I just happened to be like this wave started building, right? And
Yeah.
then I just happened to be at the right time. And okay, here's a and just happened to be building my career and evolving at the same time the whole sport was.
Right.
So if I came around today doing at that same age, there aren't the same opportunities today as there were back at that time
for that
so
specific
there's-
thing.
Specific niche.
But right now there's drifting, which is I think is a good segue to finally talk about drifting, which is what our show is about here. But there's kids out there today that are hopping on at the right time, and there's kids that are doing insane damn builds like in their garage. Like you think about Formula Drift in 2008, whatever, pre NASCAR motors type stuff. Every kid in America right now is building a more prepped car than like a 2008 drift car, which is crazy because there's always kids in their garages that are just building insane machines that would have blown out any drift car, Formula Drift car, like 8 years ago.
Totally. And I think they have opportunities too. You know,
Yeah.
Frederick Osbo's story is that of
Right.
someone that, you know, built a drift car to the spec that they thought. They said, okay, we want to have a car with a bunch of angle, and their Supra had a bunch of angle, and he was a good driver, and he went out and practiced a lot. And he got noticed in Norway and came out to the World Championships, you know, back in, what was that, maybe 08 or something. And then the next year said, oh, you know what, I'm done with school, and I'm going to go spend the money that I have and bring out a friend and try competing on the Formula Drift pro level, you know, and I think there are teams that are looking for the top drivers.
Right.
And there was, I don't think anybody could have knew that was going to happen, but
Right.
you know, Tanner was retiring at the time, and we needed a good driver, and he had a lot of skill, and then it just sort of worked out. But we're not the only team that happens to, right?
Right.
So I think there's definitely opportunities for young drifters still in the future, but you got to be good.
Right. But yeah, as I say, let's be clear though, is that the opportunity that Frederick and you guys seized existed in whatever year that was, 2010, 2011. It existed at that time. That opportunity, I think, doesn't really exist today. Like, let's be clear to you kids. I don't want to break any dreams, but like, you can't just be a good driver and show up anymore. Not that. It's
a little bit different. I
Not
agree
that that's
with
all he
that.
did. Of course, he didn't just be a good driver and
agree
showed
with
up.
that, Sam.
There was tons of work that went in between there, but that opportunity is not the same now, and you've got to have something else, and you've got to be something new and different. And I don't want to say you have to have a lot of money, but that is a large part of being in Pro FD right now. But you've got to do something new and different still to get noticed. Because Frederick, thankfully, has a ton of skill and had the right marketability and the right place, at the right time, and met you, and the rest is history. But I think that's going to be a difficult story to achieve in 2017.
I agree with that.
Interesting.
Not to break hearts.
I'm not sure if I totally agree with that.
Good.
I
Yeah, let's hear it, though.
I don't think the fans of Drift want to just see the current drivers get a year older every year, and then in 5 or 10 years you got a bunch of middle-aged dudes drifting around. I
Right.
think they want to see the young new talent, and
Right.
that's how I feel.
But so
Yeah.
to not this either Hondo or Kaufman, because I love both dudes, incredible drivers with great cars, but they are kids that showed up with money.
But money
And
doesn't
that
give
was
you.
me when you know what though?
Yeah.
Okay, so I this is motorsports we're talking about.
Right.
It's
Right,
not
absolutely.
basketball.
This
Yeah.
is not just drifting;
Right.
it's everything.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you. Okay,
So,
go ahead, Steph.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
You're not going to find a rags to riches driver on the Formula One grid, or probably IndyCar either.
Right.
Yeah.
But drifting
Or even
was that
NHRA.
for a little bit. Drifting was that for a little bit because Forsberg, Turk, Vaughn, the original Drift Alliance dudes and the original dudes that showed up in 2004, I don't think really any of those dudes came from riches. And I'm just saying to kids,
Dude, you know what?
to kids listening to the show, though, like I just want to be very clear, though, that it sucks, but I don't think if you show up today without a lot of money, you're going to get very far. But I mean, that's the truth of it.
You know what?
That is the truth of every racing.
yeah.
But
Yeah, I think I do agree with that. You know, it was a different time where you could have a less that is a bit of a shame.
But
and I think that's part of
there's a
Formula
bright
D's
side.
plan with Pro 2 is to try to
Right.
to get the cost down. But that's a hard thing to do.
Yeah, it's a
in
hard
sport is
you-
bring the cost down.
You can enter now, though. Thankfully, I like the idea of making Pro 2 more accessible. And to add a bright side to this whole story, though, is I'm not saying don't try. I'm just saying innovate.
Okay.
So innovate real quick. It's you don't need the hundreds of thousands of dollars to build your car necessarily. You kind of do, but innovate, as we've often mentioned in the show and Corey talks about all the time, is come up with a different plan. Like, do something special, do something unique, and get attention. And you can get there without the money out of your own pocket, hopefully.
So here's okay, Stefan, here's my theory on motorsports and money, okay? And tell me what your personal thoughts on this, because everybody asks me what are my 2 favorite motorsports, and I tell them I enjoy drifting and I enjoy sprint car racing. And those are my 2 favorite forms because it truly requires a mass amount of talent. Not saying other forms don't, but think about this, okay? If we go road racing with like a Pro Autosports or a NASA organization, I could basically walk up to you and say, hey, I have $150,000. I want to take your car around the racetrack. And I can give you that money, and I can hop in your car, and I can drive around the racetrack. I may not be fast,
right,
but I could still do it, okay? Now, here's sprint car racing, and here's drifting. I can walk up to you, Stefan, and give you $150,000 and say, hey, let me drift Osbo's IM. I'm not guaranteeing that I'm going to drift if I don't have the talent.
Yeah.
Right.
It requires a driver to get around a drift course. It requires a driver with talent to get around a sprint car track. So it's like, I think these 2 sports require a mass amount of talent with potentially a little bit of funding. But you look at the other sports and it's much different because I could pay to drive around the racetrack. It's not guaranteed I can't drift if I don't have the talent.
Well, it's like that's a good story, like Honadell, who obviously was set up in a good place, but he's been an athlete his entire life. And dude has massive amounts of talent because his car is about as set up as anyone in the top 32 or top 16, whatever we want to call it.
Right.
But he's kicking the big guns' asses
right,
because he has massive amounts of talent. So by no means am I saying that you just need money to get into the sport,
right,
because you need huge amount of talent.
But now, once again, comparing to other forms of motorsports, you could walk in and pay money to go do laps.
Right.
I don't think you can do that with drifting to some degree.
No, absolutely not. Because we saw a bunch of kids throwing V8s in their cars and making 1,000 horsepower and not doing well. And
absolutely.
So, Paco, go.
Well, actually, I kind of wanted to ask Steph how was the transition going from from drag racing into drift?
Right.
Like what brought you into the complete different sport?
So I had, by the time 2004, when I built my first drift car came around, I had already been drag racing for over 10 years, and that was pretty much all I did. So I wanted to do something different. We'd been pretty successful at drag racing, and I thought I was hot shit. And I was like, okay, this drifting looks pretty fun. I went to one of the events, build the car. It's a simple build, and I'll learn how to do it.
What car was that?
It was a 240 SX, an 89.
Never heard of it.
Which, a little sidebar here.
Yeah.
It was my mom's old car. So
holy shit!
Nice.
In 1989 240, when I was 13, 14, 15 years old. She just liked sporty cars, and it was an automatic 240.
Yeah.
And we had sold it to a friend, and I bought it back and turned it into a drift car. Strangely enough. So built this 240 and went out and practiced, and I was like, dude, I can do donuts. I can do this, right? And you go out to an actual event and try to drift the course, and I sucked. And I crashed the car a few times. And I was progressing, but I was trying to do the drag racing and build the car and then learn how to drift and do all these things. And it's like trying to do this at 27 years old or whatever I was. I was taking on too much, and everything was sort of suffering.
Which I didn't know.
We kept going.
I didn't know that about you, by the way.
The next year.
I didn't know that you drove, though. That's why when I was asking industry people what questions should I ask Stefan, like, I didn't know that you actually drove. A bunch of people told me, like, oh, yeah, I started out drifting, which is great. I think anyone that builds a drift car should hopefully at least have tried at some point. But that's interesting, though. So you drove for a few years, and then you realized that you sucked.
Yeah, and it totally helps because I can speak the language.
Yeah.
I know what it feels like. I've got ideas. I can't do what these guys do at the top level, but I can go drift a course.
Right.
That's not a problem.
At what point?
I've tested the drift cars myself in the past.
Yeah,
as well.
Awesome.
At what point did you realize, though, that you were not the driving skill level required?
So when I decided, okay, I need to concentrate on drifting and driving and commit myself to learning how to do this better, or I can continue on my actual business, which is running a race team.
Right.
And I couldn't do both. There wasn't enough time or whatever to do both. And I said, I'd rather just concentrate on the team. I've been driving enough. It's a lot of stress. I really enjoy building the cars. And right now, there are drivers that are better than me that I don't think in any short amount of time that I could get up to that level.
Right.
It wasn't like a 2-year deal where I could have a crash course in drifting and then get up to some level where I could be in the top 5. That
Yeah.
wasn't going to happen.
You can't
I
just-
was honest with myself.
You can't just sit in a parking lot practicing your launches. Like, it's not the same amount of commitment. Like, there is an extra
yeah, or
level.
even at the track. Like,
Right.
I didn't inherently have this background or maybe this natural skill level to get to that level. So it was like, all right, but maybe I have more of a skill level of building the cars and running the team. So if I'm good at that and I have fun doing it, let me just concentrate on that. And that's the philosophy I've been living the last 10 years.
And what year did you start making that transition to getting into drifting? And second question to that is, do you feel around the same time the import drag racing scene was dying and you saw this as an opportunity?
So in 2004, 2005, I felt like the import drag racing scene was definitely dropping off in popularity.
Yeah.
Not necessarily because people weren't interested in the cars, but us as teams and the drag racing, it's our fault. Like, we made the cars too extreme. We made the cars too unreliable. You'd come out to a drag race and like there'd be
Sounds
oil
like FD.
downs, and cars crashing, and all this downtime. And there's a story of my mom coming out to Pomona to watch me do a house of drag racing, do a drag race in 2004. And she's like, "Honey, I gotta go because
Your
it's really
car-
hot, and there's not a lot happening on the track, and I'm gonna
Yeah.
go." I'm like, "Okay,"
Sorry, Mom.
and I'm like, "There's no show."
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we just didn't have a good show. Unless you were a hardcore core enthusiast, we didn't deliver.
All right, so here's
And
immediately a hard jab, though. That was your 2016 or 15 drift car because you changed like 8 motors, right? Like Osmo's car, you made it too hardcore, right?
so that is my nature. You know?
Yeah.
So that I want to develop. I want to continue to push the limits. I want to continue to do all that. And I can say that the last few years, we did hurt a lot of stuff. We've hurt some engines, but it didn't cost us any rounds. 'Cause
Which
we
is
were able to
insane,
put
though,
spare
too,
motors
'cause-
in the car, and
I jab at you,
and-
but
and then the last-
you built it. You rebuilt it every time, and you got out there in like 30 minutes half the time, which is insane. Like, kudos to your team and you guys, but you were really tiptoeing the line there, buddy. Like, you blew so many motors, and then you made it out to the grid every time, which
No big
blows my
deal.
mind.
And then once we figure out what's wrong, we fix it. And then the end of the season, we went through 5 events with exactly the same engine.
Yeah.
So once we fixed the issues, the car was super reliable, and we were pushing the heck out of that thing at Irwindale.
Yeah.
And the thing was flawless all the way through the last event.
Yeah, once you're
but
down.
I'd like you to put this into perspective, right?
Right.
Because by no means are we the only team having engine problems.
Oh, of course.
Absolutely. You look at
Yeah.
You know,
Ken's
Alex
team.
blew one of his crazy. They broke a crankshaft in their crazy supercharged V8 LS.
Right.
Matt Field, I think, has had some engine problems.
Turk's 2J motor setup is always broken.
Gucci.
Gucci
The
is
Goosh.
Yeah.
You know, and everybody says put a 2J, put a 2J.
Yeah.
All right, for all you 2J guys out there, I want you to tell me which car in the grid went through one engine or even 2 engines only throughout the year.
Right.
You know, everybody loves Forrest Wang, and I'm a fan of his as well, but that guy blew at least 2 engines last year.
Right.
Right.
So we're not the only guys doing it. We're just the most notable. Like,
Right.
everybody
Right.
wants us to blow up stuff and
Yeah.
break because we're the guys with this obscure setup.
Right.
And
When you're the big dogs, though,
We're
people want to
probably
see
the
you
most
fail.
likely guys to have that happen because
Right.
we have the most obscure setup.
Yeah.
But
and-
people also
And
want
I'm,
to see
and
you
I'm
fail.
fine with that.
Well, as long as you're prepared for
Yeah,
it.
and I'm
yeah.
and I'm fine with that. I don't want to go out there with. I like developing. It's just
Yeah.
that's what's fun.
The other thing too is you guys were on top, most of the season. So anytime you guys had one small issue, you guys were in the light. Oh, Osmo's they're making a story out of
Right.
you guys. And they made a story out of you guys all 5 rounds or all 4 rounds that you guys had issues because of how it can change the championship and things like
Right.
that. Obviously, Forrest and the other guys weren't talked about as much because they weren't in the chase as much as you guys
Right.
were.
Well, dude that's placed number 32 in points, blowing a motor is not that interesting.
Right, absolutely. Yeah.
But when you're in the chase and your motor blows up every round, like that's very
so
interesting.
You have all eyes on you in that. And then my other thing that I wanted to ask you is you guys were saying that you potentially fizzled out import drag racing because it was just too much. It was too much on the cars. They were overly built. It was very difficult for people to keep up. Do you fear that for drifting?
I think it's there's some of that for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, all the stuff we're talking about with all these broken engines and all that, for sure. But I don't know what is the solution. We have to continue to push because we want to stay at the highest level, right? Because everybody else is also pushing. So it would be really be up to the series to figure out some way of reeling that in. But let me give you guys a little bit of knowledge on other series, right?
Right.
So what makes drifting really fun is there's all these different cars and there's all these different engines and all these different personalities, and that's fun to go watch. When you make this homogeneous type of racing, okay, so where everything's the same, so a spec tire and a spec engine and a spec chassis, you've got IndyCar, right?
Yeah.
Or you've even got sort of NASCAR, and you've got these traditional racing where in the background, they're doing a bunch of really cool engineering, but it's not what drift is. So those cars may be more reliable, but it doesn't have the flavor that drift does right now. And so that's why the series has to be careful, and I think fans have to be a little careful what you wish for, because this variety, I think, is what makes the racing and the events fun.
And okay, so
but also unreliable.
So real quick, but let's segue into. So we talked to David Egan last week from the Irish Drift Championship, and to some extent too in Pro 2 here, we're seeing there are rules now in place to make it accessible and make it so these cars do have to have a limit. So Pro 2 here, you're 245. It's 245, right, Corey?
It's 255.
255. Yeah, so 255 tire width. That is going to limit your power because you have too much power. You're going to roast those things. And the Irish Drift Championship, they are enacting new rules that say there are no more one more times. There's one more run, but you're on the same set of tires. So you cannot just have a blowout, Daigo 1,500 horsepower setup and get away with it anymore. So I like the fact that there are now rules to limit this immediate, Cold War like nuclear warfare buildup.
Yeah, there's definitely things that they could try.
You don't sound optimistic.
Yeah,
no,
what would you suggest?
The thing is for years, I would suggest things and be upset at the series for them having certain rules, and I realized that's just all against the grain. So I will tell you what we do concentrate on. What we do concentrate on is having the most competitive package and then conforming to whatever the series decides is the rule, and whatever the judges decide is how they're going to judge. Our job as a team is to conform to that and do that the best we can. If I'm always fighting what they say that they want, then I don't think that's the most competitive way. That's just complaining all the time. Yeah. So I'm going to let the series do what the series does, and then we're just going to conform to that. So you know what? If they want us to run 255s and they want us to run the same tires through multiple one more times and whatever, I guess we're going to have to make changes to do that.
I don't think those work.
I guarantee
those
what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I'll put my money on this. The same drivers are still going to do well, and the same teams are still going to do well. So if you're trying to equalize the field, I don't think that's necessarily going to happen because there's just better drivers and there's better teams.
To be clear, I don't think those rules are ever going to make their way to Pro 1, nor do I think they would work in Pro 1. But I do believe, as you just said as well, that there probably will be a reckoning in the next few years of somehow halting the war. Because right now, of course, cars are halting themselves by not even being able to make it through 2 runs. So that is one thing that is slowing the power progression. But at the same time, we're going to see, like IDC is doing, these rules that make the show tighter and quicker.
Yeah, I don't think that's necessarily going to reduce the cost of the teams much.
Yeah, it won't.
If you look at like WRC, like World Rally and such, where they have restrictors and they're limited to about 350 horsepower or so, they almost get more expensive, the engine programs, because now if everybody's making 350, like if you make an extra 10, then there's more of a benefit. So then you're spending all this money into R&D to try to find that extra 10 horsepower.
Right, you're engineering and everything gets crazier.
Well, what's the most interesting thing I've gotten out of the last couple statements you said is he listens, to the judges and the team and does exactly what they want, very specific. That's very similar to every time we talk to Osbo. Osbo just says, I just listen to the judges and I do exactly what they say. It's kind of interesting to see how those two mesh together with those two sentences because they explain it the same way.
Yeah, you play the game. And one of the things, so we were very early in making this show, the Maximum Driftcast show, and talking to Osbo, and we were talking about like gentleman drifters, and are you going to go out there to do the best run of your life against your bro? And then this was surprising, but I get it and I understand it. And we asked Osbo, like, oh, are you a gentleman drifter? Or this is very paraphrased, but he's like, no, I'm not there to make my bros happy. I'm there to win.
And I'll do exactly specifically what the judges want.
Like I'm not there to throw down fat angle. I'm not there to be a crowd pleaser. And of course, everyone's there to be a crowd pleaser. But he's there. He said his number one goal is to win, which I definitely get from the Papadakis team. Which is like, yeah, we can throw down angle, we can throw down tight tandem follow runs, but that's not our goal.
Yep.
Our goal is to win, which I think is a great thing for the sport. Sorry, go
I
on.
will say this though, okay, in our defense, because that does sound cold and it does sound
it does to some degree,
sanitary,
but it's not.
But hear me out on this, right? If Formula Drift and the judging changed and said, we want you to impress your bros and then to impress the crowd and to get the crowd interested and do the biggest sick back entry drift,
Yeah.
and that will help you get wins, we're going to go do that.
Of course,
Right. Yep.
of course. But that's what
That sounds actually more fun. That actually
Yeah.
sounds more fun.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, we're going to the events to try to win them,
yeah.
Right.
and we're gonna
But I
if they
think-
change the concept, then we'll change with it. I'm not going to fight it either.
Yeah, and if you have listened to our show, I have compared you and Osmo and your team to the bad guys in the Mighty Ducks. So I've compared you to the Russians as being these cold, hard, big hitters, though, because that is some, at least from I've seen this perspective, and I think some idiot fans that like me agree. like you guys are stone cold pros, and take that as you will, as a good thing or a bad thing. But you guys are out there to win.
It's a mission, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, you said it though, and I'm not going to hide from that. We want to come to the track, and we want to be the professionals. I mean, after all, it's called the Formula Drift Pro Series, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a pro series. There's real sponsors. We get real support from. I mean, dude, Toyota. We work with Toyota. We work with Rockstar. We work with Nexen Tire. Like, these are billion-dollar companies that are global companies that aren't interested in you impressing your bros.
Yeah.
They're interested in you making their company look good and making their products look good. The fact of the matter is that if you talk to Frederick or you talk to me, like, I'll come off and I'll be straight about that. But we're not. We're not trying to be. We're not bad guys. We're not doing anything cheating. We're not doing anything outside of ethical. We're just trying to figure out how to win and go do that all legally. And we have fun doing it.
Yeah. So hold on, because you just brought it up, though, and this is something that I have to address, and it's awkward as fuck. But I've heard, of course, when you're at the top, you hear shit like this. What do you say to the people that say that your team is cheating? Because Osmo is an incredible driver, and you guys build incredible cars, but I've heard people bitch on-grid and off-grid, like, oh, well, they are fucking using some sort of traction shit. How would you address that?
I think it's totally insulting that you can take a driver and a team that does a really good job and say, well, the only reason they're beating us is because they're cheating. They can't just necessarily be better than us. And I always thought that's what racing was, trying to figure out who's the best.
Absolutely.
But other people think that there's cheating going on, and that's absolutely not. We have way too much to lose.
Right.
And that's not even fun. Like, I've done this for way too long to have fun cheating. Like, I can't get done with a run or an event or a year or whatever and enjoy my life knowing that it was based on, on anything like that.
But like you brought up, like, your NOS in the back seat.
Look, dude, it's drifting. There's only like 3 pages of rules.
Right.
There aren't. I don't think there's any way that you can really cheat and get an advantage anyway.
Right. Well, you brought up like your NOS and the jacket in the back seat, so it's like, but there's not. And of course, every sport, every form of racing has the pushing of the boundaries, and then next year it becomes illegal. It's not illegal now, but like next year it becomes illegal.
You see that on F1 when they come
right.
up
They do
with
a new
some
arrow that is legal this year, but then they immediately ban it next year because it is an unfair.
Kudos to their team and engineer.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. Okay, so I'm watching Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull the other day. It was a rerun. I'm watching it with my kid, right?
Yeah.
And that's the one. It's the 4th one where they have the aliens. And they're saying, throughout time, the aliens came and helped all these civilizations, and that's why they were building these pyramids and all that stuff. I think that's a total insult to these old civilizations. Like, these people weren't smart enough to figure out how to build a pyramid. They couldn't figure that out. They had aliens helping them with that. I feel like that's the same thing as saying they were cheating.
Right.
So there's no aliens helping us out at the drift event.
That'd be cool.
Like, we're doing this on our own, and it's all within the rules.
So for the record, just to say it straight up right now to anyone that's hating, you're saying fuck you. We don't cheat, and we're just that good in our engineering and our skill and our all that.
What I got out of it is there's no aliens officially.
You know what? We're friends with other people on the grid, and I'm super open when people come up and ask questions. If you guys have any technical questions or even want to check out our car super close, or even in the software and stuff like that, I'm super transparent on all that stuff.
Can I take it for a spin? Sorry.
That's the hard part.
Yeah.
But if anybody has any questions about it, I don't think there's anything that we don't share. Like if you look at my Instagram, I'm showing all the stuff on the engine, even stuff when we break engines or when we have cool stuff that we're developing, even suspension components. Like I feel like that's part of the scene. That's what I don't like about the NASCAR and the Formula One is like this opaqueness to the teams and the cars. Like, what's really going on in there? I don't want to be that team. I want to be the ones that are open about it.
So, I mean, where are people? And I don't want you to reveal team secrets here, but where are people pushing advantages today? Like I know of course there's been like suspension geometry pushes, and there's some, the angle and different steering things over the years. I sound very uninformed right now. I'm trying to think of an intelligent way to say this, but like, where is the push today? Where are people developing?
I've heard rumors of cars putting like lead and tungsten in frame rails because the cars were originally built too light, and they want to run the big tires, so then they hide weight places. Because you're not allowed to
just add weight. I don't know. I'm asking.
You can add what they call ballast. You're allowed to add 50 pounds of ballast to the car. But if your car's 300 pounds underweight and you want to run a 295 tire, you're almost kind of screwed. You've got to figure out a way to make the car heavier.
So it's just crazy because you do all this lightweighting all over the car, and then you're like, all right, we're too light. We've got to add weight. And of course, you're getting rid of like a heavy hood and a heavy roof and all that to get rid of the high center of gravity weight, and then you add it back, I guess, in the rails. That's what you're saying?
Yeah, and trash control, maybe that could have helped before they put the chicane in for launches.
Yeah.
But I don't think that would help now.
But would it help with just like...
And the way the rule...
But if you're just doing wide open throttle in the corner and the car will not spin, it'll cut fuel or cut spark if you're just pushing wide open on the throttle if you start to spin. Like that seems to me the way...
Slow down wheel speed to get more forward?
Yeah. I mean, that would be the way to do it, right? I mean...
Timing.
We're so far above that. Okay, so you've got the road speed, the speed the car is actually traveling, and then you've got the tire speed. The speed so let's say the car is going around and turning 60 miles an hour and the wheels are spinning like 120 miles an hour. There's a differential of 60 miles an hour. Somewhere way lower than that, you're going to have more traction, probably really close to 60 mile an hour wheel speed. So if you change from 40 mile an hour differential or 80 mile an hour differential in speed, you're not going to see that much increase in forward bite and speed. It's not going to change that much. But you'll see a difference in tire smoke. I mean, any of these guys, any of the teams that have major clouds of smoke coming off their tires and they're burning through them in 2 runs, they're not using trash control. It's you're so far above the road speed that if you changed it 10 mile an hour either way, or even if the driver let off or on a little bit more, it's not helping you. It's all about suspension setup, like the springs you have and the sway bar setup and the geometry, all the stuff that you can change totally legally within the rules.
Right. So
I believe that's the fastest way around the track is to get the car dialed in the best.
So do you think that Osmo is going to win the championship this year? Let's move into the softest. Let's move into the softest question we can. Like you guys have been, you were so close last year, of course, and
yeah, I'm not super optimistic. I mean, we've got this new car. We've got to work out. We're at the end of the day, we're underpowered. The Nexen tire is actually really good.
Yeah.
And I know that the new guys they came back and they didn't have a great tire years ago, but the tire we had and Goosh and everybody's running on last year and then this year is really good. Like to the point to where at Irwindale, we're like, we've got everything. We've got 33 pounds of boost. We've got 150 shot of nitrous, all stacked on top of each other. I'm like, okay, we're just let's give it all. And we were still underpowered compared to like Field or I mean, look at JR.
Yeah.
I think that's why he went to the newer engine setup is he looks super underpowered at Irwindale,
So I'm very
and that's the
I'm, as I say, I'm very surprised by your answer right now because I think we've already gained on the show and elsewhere that you're calculating mine. But it's very interesting to hear. No, I don't think we're going to win this year. Like every team, like Matt Field, for example, says, "Why would I show up if I don't think I'm going to win?" Like every team says, "Yeah," like swinging their dicks around, like, "Yeah, we're going to fucking win. Of course we're going to win." It's very interesting to hear
I'm
you
a
say,
realist.
"Yeah, that's."
Yeah, I'm a real. I mean, we're going to try everything we can.
Of course,
but
yeah. You're gonna...
it's stacked against us. I mean, compared to someone that's coming with a tried and true setup.
I'm curious to see if this is
so. Frederick and I we have this conversation twice a year, right? So the conversation goes like this: would we rather be in the situation where we're told what car we can use, we're told what engine we can use, and we work with tire companies for several years. So they may have a good tire one year, but not another year. But we don't want to switch tire companies every year. We want to stay consistent and dedicate ourselves to a tire company and help develop the tires over the years, right? Versus, like, the theory is, like, a Daigo can come out and say, okay, I want to do a Corvette, and I want a supercharged V8, and who's got the newest, greatest tire, and cherry pick his whole combination,
right,
and then be changing it every few years.
Right.
I think there's an attraction to that, but I don't feel like that's where we are at. Like, we're trying to... it's just a different philosophy. When Alex comes in from Peru and he says, okay, what chassis builder do I want? And then what's the best chassis? And then what's the most horsepower? And what's the best tire? And he basically picked that. I think he's got one of the best cars on the grid.
Hondadale? Or not Honda, excuse me. Hillebrand, yeah. Hillebrand. So I think he's got one of the best cars on the grid. And so he's picked, that's Alex versus Alec. Yeah, I know.
Right?
We
Alex,
always get it wrong. Yeah.
You always
okay.
I always get it wrong.
So that BMW is probably one of the best cars in the grid.
Right.
And then we've probably got one of the hardest combinations to do.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That's where I have fun, and that's why I say, like, the cheating stuff is so off the table, because I have fun kind of doing it the hard way.
Right.
It's the most rewarding to me, and I think Frederick. I think that Frederick probably has a debate within himself of which he'd rather. So that's a conversation to have with him.
Well,
right?
you guys, we'll talk to him again soon for sure. But it's definitely you guys are without a doubt starting off with the least driftable car for the fifth year in a row right now, right? Like stock. You guys.
And the way the rules are set up, we a Viper can have 12 cylinders or 10 cylinders. 10 cylinders all set behind the front axle because the firewall's so far back. But with our cars, the firewall's like 8 inches behind the front axle. So our engine, half of it's in front of the front axle.
Right.
So that's why we've kind of kept with these 4-cylinder engines, because they're really lightweight. If we went with a big V8, then we have so much front bias and so much of the engine is in front of the front axle that the cars ended up handling a lot worse.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we talked about on Drift Garage show that we made a little bit. Show we made a little bit over the past 4 years, but one of the conversations we got into this year was, at least for like a kid out there, like, you don't need to throw a JZ in your 400 horsepower 240 because it's gonna offset the weight in a terrible way. So granted, if you have like 900 horsepower and you need to make that blah blah blah, you're gonna be okay. But like going SR versus JZ, like a motor that weighs a few 100 pounds less, is gonna be so much more of a benefit to you than maybe having that cool guy JZ heavy ass block.
Yeah, and that's what the teams are doing now to offset that heavy engine is moving all of the components to the rear to get the weight bias more towards the rear, and overall having a heavy car and having that big wide tire in the back, right? 2,900, 3,000 pound cars.
Right.
And they can run the 285 tires. But if they implement a different tire size rule, or you have to use the same tire for multiple rounds, I think there might be a change in trend, but I don't think it's going to be as exciting on the track. I like seeing. I think that's part of the excitement. I have my motorsport friends that they're like drifting is stupid. They come out and just at least check it out.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh my god, these
Yeah.
are like over 1,000 horsepower cars, and just the engineering nowadays is
I think
they enjoy.
5 years ago, you could have been like, oh, it's like the way you describe it to someone is it's like ice skating and WWE of racing. But now it is a damn technical, crazy, fast insane thing. Like there is anyone that does not call it like a forefront of the motorsport community is insane, because there's so much technology and so much skill now in 2016 and now 2017. Like it is insane.
Yeah. So I think that's what the series is careful to
Protect.
They don't want to go backwards too much on that, because it's an amazing show. It's an amazing show.
And one thing I want to do is I actually want to step back to the previous questions. I don't know why I can't get this out of my head, but we were talking about the longevity of the sport and talking about how import drag racing kind of fizzled away. And obviously you kind of going through that and seeing the life of the sport. And then we talk about drifting, and it's like, man, it's almost getting to that same point. What would you like to change? Or obviously seeing what you have in the past, what do you believe the series can do differently to prolong the growth of the sport where it doesn't fizzle out because nobody can keep up? What would you like?
So I've got a little bit of a different
Good question.
theory on this, because I think you guys are more grassroots, like, you know, hardcore drifter,
Oh, no,
you
no.
know, 240s, and you guys are fan. That's my impression.
Well,
right?
so this
that
is
might
one
not
of
be the case, but
real quick, big.
I feel like
It's a huge question because we discuss that constantly, and at least I am on the side of Pro 1 and
Yep.
Formula Drift needs to be the most professional thing it can be, and we should have grid life, and we should have grassroots and final bout and all that shit, but the pro level needs to be top grain, the best of the best.
Yeah, and that I agree with that. I believe it shouldn't be like, I don't want to say budget shouldn't be concerned, but it's like, do you know what? Use the grassroots to play, but make this as the forefront of what it is.
Not to
We
interrupt,
agree with that.
Not to interrupt, as I am known to do, but I had to get it clear that we are not just like go have fun with your friends in the park kids. Like we believe in pro racing as well as the go have fun with your friends racing.
okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to put you guys.
How dare
in the
you?
corner
No,
there.
how dare you?
To put you on the spot.
You may continue. Thank you.
Yeah. So, okay, hear me out on this, because it's a difficult question, right? So I think that the show only needs to be a top 16. I think a badass top 16 is enough. People come in, they watch it for 2-3 hours, maybe a little bit before it, and I think that's people will get their money's worth out of it. But with that, and then so at that point, you only need somewhere between 16 to 20 cars at a weekend,
right,
to have a good show. And I think there's no problem filling that with high quality cars,
right?
That people don't have budget issues. What that doesn't do is allow the building and the development of teams and drivers over the years. So in 5 and 10 years, there are those drivers that can compete at that level.
Right.
And that's where the top 32 format does work. And that's where the 2-day events and all that stuff and the whole form of the drift, the way it is, actually, I think does work, because it helps the development of teams and drivers for more long-term, what's the word I'm looking for? Longevity. Yeah.
It's really interesting. I've not really considered that idea previously, but it's one thing I've thought about a lot too, is that the bottom 16 of the top 32 do struggle to keep up with the budgets of the top 16, if for nothing else.
Right. Okay. Now the other thing too is,
and that's motorsports.
Right.
That's motorsports look, I did some Honda Challenge racing with NASA here in Southern California.
Yep.
And it was the same way even at that. I mean, there was the haves and the have-nots. Some of the guys work more often and don't have a lot of money and don't practice or test that much, and they're at the back of the field. And then you got the guys that are really into this grassroots weekend racing, and this is their little baby, their CRX or Civic or whatever it is, and they're the top 3 all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's probably the same thing when you go to the skateboard event and these guys are doing street skate.
well, it's a funny analogy as you say that, because I remember when I was go-kart racing, you have this engine builder who will build 6 exact same engines, and there will be a 3 horsepower difference, but the cost between that 3 horsepower is thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And obviously the guys that are going to perform more want to spend that extra $1,000, couple thousand, to get that 3 more horsepower out of the same spec engine for that class. But the other thing too is, you look at these other rules, and NASCAR and Formula One, they changed the tire rule. They added, KERS system, the engine changing rules. NASCAR has, chassis rules to make it more competitive for a longer period of time. I don't know if drifting is ever going to go that way, or if it's even possible to.
I think it's possible.
So the way I've seen it, the way they do it, like in WRC or like Rallycross, is they have a homologated. What homologated means like
Right.
they have allowed this specific suspension design to be used in their series.
Correct.
So when they build a new rallycross car, it's not based on Volkswagen Beetle suspension.
Yeah.
It's based on this known fabricated suspension design. So they're building like this sailboat in a bottle where it's a new body,
Yeah.
but it's the same suspension that they're putting under these different cars. The Formula Drift people don't want to go that way. They seem to say, you know, whatever your car came with, that's what you get to work with. The way it's just a different model. I would be open if they went to a homologated suspension design to where if they said, okay, McPherson front suspension and the cross member needs to be like, they give some dimensions and stuff like that. I'd be open to that. And then you'd have the cars be more similar, but some cars are not.
Yeah.
It's hard to say, right? It's
We've joked on this
but
show. Sorry, go on.
do you guys really think that? Do you guys really think that rounds are being lost that much because of the car setup? I think rounds are being lost more because of driver. error.
Well, I think it's being
And-
they're being lost all the time because of the thing we talked about earlier of the extreme building. So
Also,
there's so
yep.
many cars that are failing. You know, and I was going to name some specific drivers, but literally is everyone on the top 16 and beyond that they are losing rounds because they have overbuilt this aspect of their car, which maybe won them the previous round because their car was so over the top and above what the other cars were,
Right.
but it's not reliable. And we're seeing time and time again the dudes that win are the ones whose cars are reliable,
The
and
most
run,
consistent,
and
yeah.
run the whole season. You know,
So let me throw out a couple rounds. Just a couple rounds
Yeah.
come to mind.
Yeah,
Okay, so
absolutely.
us at Irwindale, we lost against Matt Field.
Yep.
yeah.
Frederick was getting really aggressive and ran into Field,
Which is-
and in the second to last turn,
Which
we
is crazy for me
lost.
to think, though. Real quick, because
Yeah,
we
that
watched
was
all of 2014 season where Forsberg hit Osbo by going too hard or whatever multiple times, and then I've never seen Osbo really go too hard because the dude's usually so dialed, and it's always insane. I love Irwindale because you see drivers that are robots. You know, I say that in a nice way, that are so consistent. You see them get emotional, and it was very insane to see Osbo get emotional, as in his driving was affected by his emotions, which is insane to see.
So that round was not a vehicle thing, right? And then when we won when Kristoff was going to basically win Orlando, and he ran into Frederick, and then we won the event last year. Same thing. It wasn't a car thing. He ran into Frederick.
Yeah.
We debeated a tire against Jeff Jones in Atlanta last year.
Yeah.
You know, Frederick was going to win that round until we made an error and had too low of a pressure, and he ran over the rumble strip, and which shouldn't debeat a tire.
Right.
So that kind of comes back to the car issue.
But you guys are
right?
always
Us
pushing
the
for
limits. I think a little bit too much.
Yeah, you're always pushing the limits
So
for maximum
I think
grip.
there's a variety of reasons.
Yeah.
But Denofa, same thing, losing rounds, and other guys losing rounds for having too low of a pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when you just glue it.
You just glue it on.
Yeah.
It's good.
Totally, and I would like, and that's what we do. We try to do a good job of each weekend after we get done, is we'll look back and we'll say, okay, where did we do well and where did we not do well, and is it car or is it technique, and how can we come into the next event and do better, or who won, like, and what did they do well, and so Matt Fields, let's take him as an example again, right? So Texas and Irwindale.
Yeah.
He wasn't the fastest car. He wasn't the most consistent. He didn't have the best runs, but he wasn't making mistakes. Other people were making mistakes against him, and he was doing what he needed to do to win rounds.
And he drove like a demon. I think that's the most important thing about watching Field dominate those rounds last year is he drove like an insane person, which was really cool to see. Like we got to see like Stonebeck drive against Osbo. That was in Texas. Those were some of the best battles, and I think those were the best battles in 2016 Formula Drift was Osbo versus Stonebeck in Texas, because Stonebeck is a great driver, but he's not as good as Frederick Osbo, and we saw Stonebeck turn it the hell up. Was it two one more times? I don't remember.
Yeah, there was a couple of them, right? And then eventually Stonebeck, I think, made a mistake.
Exactly, and
Cost
he
him
lost
the
because he
round.
made a mistake, but he shouldn't have, on paper, he shouldn't have kept up with Osbo the first time, which is just crazy to see, though, that drivers can throw out so hard. But at the end, it comes down to that little amount of driver skill or your car breaks.
And the other thing I'm thinking about too. Sorry, I could Go ahead, Steph.
No, so guys, I mean, Frederick's not infallible, and we don't have the best car out there. That's what's interesting is, like, I think we do well,
Yeah.
right? But he's totally doable, and a lot of the rounds that Frederick wins, and we'll take them, but people are making mistakes against Frederick.
Right.
And nothing to do with us. That has nothing to do with cheating. That's just other people making mistakes.
Right. But
And,
Frederick as a driver is near infallible, and you guys as a team, even though you're blowing motors left and right some seasons, like you guys
That's
as a team
taken
are
so long.
you're still near
Look
infallible
back
though.
to- That's taken so long. The first 3 years, he couldn't go like past the top 3 or 8 or 4.
Right.
He'd make a mistake. He'd run into somebody. He'd go off the track. He'd do like,
Right.
and it took a really long time to figure that out.
Yeah.
And that's now that he's a veteran. And that's the same thing with Forsberg, and that's the same
Right.
thing with Daigo, and that's the same
Yeah.
thing with these guys at the top level. It's not that any of the guys that they're beating don't have as much talent.
Right.
They just don't necessarily have the same amount of laps out there.
Consistency and all that. And then here's what I love and hate about the sport is you guys are winning consistently and kicking everyone's ass consistently. And let's change the car around entirely. Like you guys were
We
saying.
were so close to winning, but we're gonna build something.
You gotta keep the factory happy and you gotta keep the fans happy with new and refreshed builds. But it's like if Osmo and you guys just kept the TC for one more year and everyone else is changing their cars, like Forsberg's car is completely different and he is gonna have a new car this year. So many of the dudes with new cars this year, and like, if you just kept your old reliable
how fun
build.
is that though?
It's fun. Great. I
There's
love
so
it.
much
I
stuff
love
that-
it, but it's crazy.
You talk shit about it. You can say these guys are idiots.
Yeah.
And what are they doing with that car? And you can't drift a front wheel drive car. And
Yeah.
why do they get? That's all the fun stuff to talk about.
Right.
Oh yeah, it keeps the sport interesting, and I love it, and I hate it, and it's the way that it is. Because if we all had the same cars every year, we would lose something. But
Dude, imagine if the series was all Corollas and S13s and 14s.
well, hold on a
and-
minute, because we've talked about this, and I'd
You
love
know.
to see in Atlanta. I think that we've decided the track should be Atlanta. I want to see top 16 drivers, all in stock spec KA powered S13s coupes. Everyone has the exact same car. Everyone has a stock KA. Everyone has coilovers and a welded diff and a bucket seat. And let's see what happens. Like, I think that would be the coolest thing in the world to see all these dudes going head to head in stock cars. I mean, that's a good response.
Well,
to
wouldn't that be a good point to see?
That shouldn't be
where's
Formula
your
Drift.
driver's
Yeah.
where's your driver's skill at, and take the reliability of your car performing or not. That is
Yeah.
when can you perform under pressure.
I just want to see a head-to-head scale, and let's go crazy. Let's do not even a top. Let's not do head-to-head. Let's do just a 16 car tandem
train
until the last man standing, because your tires will last forever, right?
Yep.
So it's last man standing, and you just keep on looping the keyhole and going up the hill and down the hill at Atlanta until
It's a
your
Royal Rumble.
Yeah, until your car explodes. And that shouldn't be Formula Drift, by the way. That should be like an exhibition event. Like, I don't think by any means Formula Drift should be that, but that would be fun. Let's be clear.
I think that would be interesting. I think that'd be fun to do. But you're not going to pack 15,000 people at
No,
Irwindale to watch
that's my nerd fantasy.
It'd be me, Sam, Paco,
Yeah.
and Chris over here.
and our insane fans of the show. We'd all be super psyched on it. All right, but we got to move into Instagram questions. So what we do every show, Stefan, is we ask the internet what they would like to ask of you, and we have, of course, some intelligent ones, some that are less so. But we're gonna read them. Read as many as we can.
Can I launch one?
Yeah, Paco's gonna launch into the first fan question. Hit it.
This question is from Mr. Lex of Fat Dogs XX. He's asking Mr. Steph Papadakis, are you aware of Sam's nickname that he gave you on Maximum Driftcast?
Oh boy. Do you know what?
I think I heard it, but what is it again?
It's Stefan Papa Mama Kisses.
Mom and Daddy Kisses.
Is that?
That one, dude. I went through elementary school and junior high and high school with Stefan Papadakis as my name.
And no one. Yeah. So you've heard it all.
It was terrible. No, I got fucking made fun of all the time. It was terrible.
Has anyone?
Think about it. That's the Honda guy, Stephen Mama Daddy Papa.
But has
Kisses.
anyone called you Papa Mama Kisses, or is that a Maximum Driftcast
That's
original?
a new one.
Papa Drunka Kiss, Papa.
Papa Wheelie, Papa.
There's a whole bunch.
Papa
of
Boner.
Yeah.
Jesus.
So first question, Miar name says drivetrain from ? And I'm sure they're talking about the IM. What's your drivetrain this year?
So for Long Beach, it's exactly the same stuff as we ran in the TC. So it's the 2AR FE engine, which is the TC and Camry and all the late model Toyota engine.
Frankenstein motor.
And then we use the G-Force NASCAR transmission. That's pretty popular. We've decided to not go towards the sequential.
Yeah, I was about to
Frederick
say.
really likes the H-pattern shifter, actually.
He likes banging some gears because I've seen just about everyone not just about everyone, a lot of people in the upper portion of the grid are all going sequential this year.
Yeah. Frederick really likes the H-pattern.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's any disadvantage to it. And it's a really solid shift. It's a good transmission. A lot of gear ratios. And that's another thing. Like we play with gear ratios and stuff all the time. There's a lot of little tricks that we do that are totally that you can get benefits from.
Are you doing
that we work on.
Are you doing a quick change?
No, we actually use super rear ends, and we only have two different rear end ratios, a 3.77 and a 4.27 ratio, and then we'll change individual gear ratios, like second and third, a lot in the transmission. And with that combination, we can kind of get whatever we want.
That is very interesting.
That is
I think
interesting.
just about everyone runs quick changes now.
And are you still running a 4-speed G-Force, or did you go sequential?
Yeah.
Okay.
Where were you?
I was looking at Instagram questions.
Okay. Yeah, but that's crazy though, because just about everyone runs a Winters quick change in the rear, and you guys are once again different. You always got to be different, Papa Mama. Why you got to be different?
I have a real question.
Isn't that more core? We don't use the quick change. We use Supra stuff. That's
street, dude. You're so street.
Yep. We're keeping it Toyota. Question by. Sorry. No. It's good.
No. Keep going.
Okay.
Keep going.
Question by Wills by Wofka. I think that's kind of like vodka. He said, "How does it feel to be the Dom Toretto of Formula Drift?"
Which is the Fast and Furious. Yeah, I assume you know who that is.
Oh, that's another nickname I had.
There
they called me Minivin.
Minivin.
Minivin?
That's Vin
Minivin.
Unleaded.
That's what it was. It was Minvin.
Hell yeah.
You found Vin Unleaded.
And now you're driving a minivan. Because that's what your car looks like.
I don't know. I'm
It's okay.
The whole movie is so ridiculous.
It's not though, because you live
the
that
whole
life.
thing is ridiculous.
Were the writers and like the people, the producers, were they hanging out with you guys during your street races to figure out how to make that movie? I'm half joking.
And then I would have gotten a little bit of compensation for.
I know. Well, I'm half joking
for being. Yeah.
But I am serious because.
Dude, you guys got to remember, I'm not a fucking cool guy.
I know. I know.
Picked on. I was always a car guy. Like, I'm 5'8". I'm fucking 100. I'm not even a big guy.
You're the dude that rides the moped in the pits.
Yeah. You and Oslo ride around in your moped together.
Spree around the pit.
Yeah.
There's nothing cool about that.
Well, that's what I love though, is because from one nerd to another, it's cool that we can somehow get a place in life by knowing stuff and either building something cool or making people laugh.
Well, sometimes I see him flying around the pits on the moped. I'm like, I don't know if he likes everybody or anybody.
He's focused, dude.
Or if
he's
just
dialed.
Yeah.
That's the thing though. Is like we had a fan the last show, like during our live pre-show. They were like, "Oh, I said hi to you at Irwindale, and you ignored me." It's like, no, I didn't ignore you. I was just in the zone because I'm just thinking about stupid shit all day. Like, and just like Papa, he's riding through the pits on his moped, and like you wave to him, and he just ignores you. Not because he's being rude. His head's in the game.
Right.
He's thinking about gear ratios.
He's like, man, should I do Skittles or M&Ms?
Skittles or M&Ms today? Like, I don't know if we should get the club or the BLT for lunch.
Dude, so the scooter thing is because I wear so many hats, right? So I'm spotting for Frederick. I'm tuning the car.
You're a spotter?
I'm meeting with sponsors. Like, there's so many things. And so, like, I'm, like, shooting around the track to all these places. But we'll be in the middle of a round, and they're like, there's a problem with the car. We need you down here. I'll jump on the scooter. I'll run down the stairs from the spotting tower, jam over there. We'll look at the laptop and figure out what's going on. And then, okay, I think this is it. We'll hopefully fix it. And then I'll jam back up to the spotting tower.
Yeah.
Or sometimes he'll do a round, and I'm not even in the spotting tower. So, like, back in the days, we'd have trouble with, like, Tanner's like the NASCAR motor was overheating. I remember we did like 3 rounds at Irwindale, and no one was spotting for Tanner. I was spotting from him from the pit, from the pit.
A good Papa Mama Kisses anecdote is whatever, I think 2015 Irwindale final battle goes down. The show is over. The season's over. Everyone is, there's this huge sigh of relief from all the teams because they can finally crack open that beer
Right.
they wanted to have all season. And Stefan I look over and he's at his laptop looking at data on the car. Like he has not cracked a beer. This is 10 minutes after the final run at Irwindale, and he's looking at data.
Still working.
Yeah, like you're just being a nerd. Cut it out,
Yes.
nerd. Cut it out,
Well,
nerd.
so we
Have a beer.
won the championship a couple years ago, right? In
Yep.
2015, and we won it like in the second round of Irwindale, and the guy started celebrating. I was like, "Whoa! Wait
Yeah.
till the end of the event. We still have a round to win.
Yeah.
We still want to win the event." So it's
Yeah, that's the year I'm talking about too.
I don't
Because
know. It's a long career. I want to keep going. I
Yeah.
love doing this. I love hanging, talking with you guys, and
but have a beer every
all
now and then
super
and like
fun,
and hang
so-
out, man. Because yeah,
That's
that
a
was
good
the
idea.
it was the year that you
Yeah.
won the championship, and rather than celebrating on the podium and drinking champagne out of a shoe or whatever, you were looking at data immediately after the car got
I
off
was
the
probably just nervous and uncomfortable and wanted to just not be out there too much.
I know.
I don't want to cry in front of everybody.
I know how it is, fellow nerd, because I'm there too. All right, Eric Doc X says, if you were pizza topping, what would you be?
That's a good one.
Jesus.
Oh shoot. I don't know.
I'd pin him as a sausage guy.
Pineapple.
Oh, is he a pineapple guy?
Are you a pineapple on pizza?
No, I'm more of an anchovy.
Oh, a little
Yeah,
fishy.
Little,
Whoa.
Throwback.
yeah. A little bit more lean, not super fatty like a sausage.
Have you eaten an
Not
anchovy
everybody
before?
chooses it.
They're gross, dude.
But-
what are you talking about?
He could have said spam.
Some people love anchovies. You'd be surprised.
I made a
Not necessarily
mistake.
on pizza.
Drunkenly one night, I was like, I'm going to get an anchovy pizza because the Ninja Turtles used to do it.
Oh,
And
for sure.
It was the worst move I have ever made. It was disgusting. It was.
Dude, you know what? I did that like a couple months ago. We went to like this like thin crust Italian like place, and I was like, anchovy. I kind of want that.
Oh,
and
no.
I ordered it, and I was like, oh my god, this is way too salty.
Yeah, it's just a
Terrible.
salt bomb. It's the
Did you
worst.
feel like Michelangelo?
Fuck, maybe I'm not an anchovy. I don't.
Throw all the curveballs at you.
I'm supreme. How about that? I'll be the
There you
supreme.
go.
Just
Sure.
a little bit of
That's a safe
everything.
answer, but you're still
Yeah.
anchovy.
Sam would be a meat lover.
Yeah.
A question from
Paco, you got one?
JW High. If Freddie Cosmo wasn't your driver, who do you want to be? Who would you want to be your driver? I guess like who's
Okay,
your favorite
so-
driver other
yeah,
than
yeah.
Cosmo?
Interestingly enough, when we first started doing the drift program, and then I was the only drift driver, and we wanted to bring on a second driver. Before we worked with Tanner Faust, when that decision was being made, I hit up Daijiro Yoshihara
Oh.
to drive with us, and then he's like, "No, I already got something going on. Thanks for the offer." And then, he had a great deal with Falcon at the time, and then when Tanner was retiring and we needed another driver, I hit up Daijiro again. He's like, "Nah, I'm good. Pretty good going on. I'm okay."
All right.
So
Double
I've
rejection.
asked Dai both times. He
Awkward.
had the first option both times, actually.
How did you get Freddie? How did that go down? Because as you said, Freddie was a kid driving around in his Supra, bringing it. He was a kid that was screwing around
He's
in
a new
parking
guy.
lots and lakes, ice beds, and then suddenly he brings a Supra to FD. How did the next year he end up on Papadakis?
It was obviously his look, Sam.
Yeah, it was his jaw. We all know it was his chisel jaw, but aside from that, why were you drawn to him?
So a couple of things. So first, it was I think a core driving skill. It's something that I didn't have. So when I was driving the drift cars, I always felt behind,
Yeah.
like I'm reacting to everything going on, and I could never get ahead of it. And then when I'd watch Tanner drive or like Samuel Hubinet,
Yeah.
these guys seemed like they were ahead of the car, and they were doing these small
Yeah.
adjustments and improvising with the car that they knew they were in the moment. They were in the zone. They were focused, like they
Yeah.
were one with the car.
I like that.
And they were manipulating the whole situation.
The
right?
not being
And I saw
reactionary,
that
yeah.
with Frederick. But Frederick had a terrible strategy. Like, he's like, I'm full drift. I'm full throttle. He'd be chasing somebody and not even trying to tandem with them. He's just doing the craziest, sickest drift.
Yeah.
8 car lengths behind the guy.
Yeah.
It's like, hold on, dude. You're supposed to be tandeming them. If
Yeah.
you're not entering the turn with the guy at the same time, you've already lost the round before
Right.
you're even starting the run, right? But he had an outlook on drift that he always wanted to. He was fully committed, and he was open to new ideas. But he had a lot of really good ideas of his own, and that was the same thing with Tanner. So Tanner had an idea how to drift, but he was always studying, and he was learning from everybody else, and he was talking, and he was always trying to learn. He was a student,
Yeah.
also.
And that seems to be the thing that
Tanner-
makes champions, though, is that they're analytical and they are not reaction. Like you said, they're not reactionary drivers. They are 2 seconds ahead. They're not reacting to what's going on.
Yep.
They're mapping. They're changing the course of history through their driving rather than reacting to what is happening in front of them.
Yeah, so with Tanner, I was able to give him a good, reliable car, but I didn't teach him how to drift. He was already a championship-worth driver before he ever stepped into the team. I learned a lot about driving from him. And then, Frederick was already a really high level of talent, but he didn't know how to win rounds and how to win championships. And that's some of the skill that I brought was, of how to look at the round and how to look at the opponent and try to figure out the best strategy on beating them and listening to the judges and doing what they want to get good scores. And I know, and the opposite of that, I think, is maybe a Forrest Wang, right? Everybody loves Forrest Wang. He's got a cool car. It sounds cool. They've got style and everything, but it's like he's not listening to the judges in the drivers' meeting.
Yeah.
And he's out there doing his own thing.
And that is exactly
and it's
the
to
man's
his
problem.
own demise.
Yep. And then bitching and lying about it when he fails. But that's not how I really feel.
That, but I will say
Sam.
Never.
Yeah, but I will say, like, I watched some of the drivers in the drivers' meeting, I watched some of the drivers on qualifying or even in the rounds, and they'll totally do what the judges said, don't do this.
Yeah.
And they'll do it, and then after the round, they'll complain. But it's like, there was no secret.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Which you can argue whether it is the right way the sport should be done. Sure, argue that. But it's very clear what you should be doing out there, I think. And like you guys do.
And I'm not commenting on what's the right way or what's better to watch.
Right.
I'm only commenting on
What's better to win?
like how do you win a round.
Yeah.
And we always try to give Formula Drift the benefit of the doubt here because just like anything, it's really hard. It's hard. It's hard to build a drift car. It's hard to judge an event. It's hard to set a rule book for an entire sport. Like these things are hard, and you cannot make dramatic changes right away and expect good results. Like you got to. You like you said this year, you're not expected to win a championship because you guys have made a dramatic change. But at least your outlook is that we're going to do our best and we're going to dial the car in over the season.
Yeah.
We got.
Quick question before we let you go.
Oh, we got some more. We got a couple more. Hold on. We've only hit like 3 questions.
Oh,
we're not letting him go unless you have to go.
Okay,
we got a
wait
couple
1
more.
second.
All right. So.
I'm good. I got more time. Yeah,
All right. Good. So I think we already know the general answer to this because we talked about it. But Cody 86 says, "Why are you sticking with a 2AR? Considering that you blew up a few motors in an event, I would think that you'd want to experiment with something new."
I ask myself that question all the time. All right, so this is the debate, right?
Okay.
This is the debate. So the 4-cylinder is lightweight, and we make good power with it, and it's got a great RPM band. We make power from 3,000 to like 8,400. It's a good engine. So there's a lot of benefits from it on that end, and it's relatively inexpensive to build these engines, so we can put money in other places on the team. We can continue to upgrade the suspension on the car. We can continue to go test. We can hire good people, so there's money that we can put in other places instead of just having a $50,000 dyno tuned V8, from the engine builders. There's several of those out there.
Yeah.
All right. The next engine that we were considering it's called the 1GR, and it's in like a late model Toyota truck. It's a 4-liter. It's a V6. It's all aluminum. We could probably make 1,200 horsepower, no problem with it.
Yeah.
But we're back to developing again. It's an engine that nobody uses really, and no one's running at that power level. And it's like, man, do we continue to try to like make this 4-cylinder more reliable, or do we switch to a whole new engine? And what's going to happen there?
I mean, you're already changing the entire chassis around, so you can't change.
Yeah, and we got to
everything.
do that too, right? We don't want to go with the 2J, and a couple of reasons. Number one, it's heavy, and with our chassis, so much of the engine would be sticking out in front of the nose.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily that much more reliable. Like we talked earlier in the show, is there's a bunch of dudes blowing those things up. So, and then another option, which I don't know if this is how likely this is try to get in with the Toyota TRD people. and get them to do like an engine program for us. But they're so interested in NASCAR and stuff that I'm not sure how interested they are in doing a drift car engine program.
Yeah.
But I think that would be cool, if like there was a TRD and I don't know. What do you guys think? What if there was an engine package and then like all the Toyota, like Turk and then us and Goosh were all using like this engine package from TRD?
I mean, not using a 25, 30-year-old motor like they are. I
don't know. Maybe it's a modified push rod freaking NASCAR.
Yeah.
engine.
I mean, I trust your judgment in this. I'm going to let you decide what you want to do in your car because I imagine that for the space you have under the hood,
I would like to see a lightweight V8, like one of those.
Well, that's what I was going to get to. Didn't you run that in a TC once for Tanner as a V8?
Yeah, we ran the NASCAR V8, but that one we had the firewall. So this is
too much.
An item that your listeners may or may not know about, but it's an interesting thing with the rules and Formula D and us pushing the limits, right? So back when we did Tanner's car, it's a similar chassis to the current TC the last year's TC that we ran. It was TC1, and the firewall is only 8 inches back from the front axle. So your engine setback is not very much. What that means is there's a lot of weight really far forward.
Right.
So this big it's actually a cast iron block in all the NASCARs. That's a NASCAR rule.
Yeah.
So it's a 420-pound engine. It's actually a pretty heavy engine. But we wanted to install it farther back. And back then, this guy, Formula Drift technical manager, was Randy. I don't remember Randy's last name.
Randy Orton.
But the way the rule was written was you're not allowed to move the firewall back. Like, you can't relocate it. But you can, like, hammer it out.
Right,
and, like,
yeah.
make room for, like, an intake manifold or, like, an alternator or things like that.
So you can stretch the metal. You can't cut and weld, though. You can stretch it, though.
Yeah, so what we did is we stretched the whole firewall back like 4 or 6 inches.
Oh my
to get the
God.
engine farther back.
Yeah.
So it was the stock firewall, and we just pushed the rules. And they
Massaged.
closed that loophole a couple years later and said the engine can't be farther back than the location of the factory firewall.
Yeah, I love you, freaking race car builders.
I know,
the way
wizards.
you read the rules like, all right, well that's what it says.
But
What does it really
hey,
mean?
Tanner, grab the hammer.
Yeah, it just says you can't.
No, dude, you know what's crazy? So check this out. So the guy Randy, their technical manager, said, "All right, we don't want you to move the engine back, but the rules allow you to change the wheelbase. Like, we could basically move the front wheels forward 12 inches,
Yeah,
and it's actually totally legal."
That makes
There
sense.
you go.
So imagine this, right?
Yeah.
The wheels are moved 12 inches farther forward. You make custom front fenders that relocate the wheel well, and now you have like this stretched car. I don't know if that's legal nowadays
Right.
with the rules, but that
Yeah.
would have been legal back then,
That-
which is totally a terrible thing.
Right.
yeah.
I do want to answer your question about the engine, though. If Toyota produced a engine for you guys to use, or if you had to use another engine like the 2J or the 2AR. So, like we mentioned before, are we the diehard grassroots fans, or are we the pro FD fans? And I'm going to try to give you my two perspectives on it,
Yeah.
right? Okay. So if you do go that route with the Toyota spec engine through Toyota Racing Development, TRD, do you know what? I think it'd be a great program for you guys. But is the grassroots guys going to look at that like, oh, now I don't have the ability to build that in my garage. I don't have the ability to look for that. And I think the thing about Formula D to some degree is sometimes kids look at the car and be like, man, I may have hope to be able to build one of these cars one day in my garage because I can get all
Right.
the parts off the shelf. But then you go to the TRD full race engine package, you are totally excluding the ability of potentially building something like that.
They already are doing that. So.
Yeah, but then the thing it goes, but do you know what? This is the progression of the sport.
Right.
Right? So I think there's a balance there. I think it's a great deal for the sport, but then again, you put the sport in that whole nother category now.
Like, here's the thing that go on, Steph.
Look, guys, I agree with that,
Yeah.
but that's what I think is hypocritical about people
Right.
slamming our engine program.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, we're a relatively small shop, and we're building race cars and race engines with stuff from local suppliers, and we don't have an engine dyno. We've got a chassis dyno that we use it over at AEM Electronics, but we're not an engine building facility. Like, we're a race team that's trying to do a whole engine package, and I feel like that's what's pretty common. You know, that's what
Yeah.
Forrest and those guys are doing. You know, I think most of the guys that's probably what Ryan's and those guys are doing. You know, they build a few engines a year.
Yep.
So you're
Yeah.
not the bad team from the Mighty Ducks, is what you're saying?
There's hope.
Us?
I said you're not like the
Yeah,
bad guy
we
team
have
for
a
the Mighty
tiny
Ducks.
budget we build our own chassis and we build our own engines, and so to put this into perspective, right? So
Yeah.
we do get sponsorship dollars. Toyota helps us. Hank, all the stickers that you see in the car are companies that help us run the team.
Right.
That money goes into our shop rent, building the vehicle, building
Yeah.
engines, our full-time crew guys, traveling, putting gas, all the stuff that costs a lot of money.
Osbo's 7-figure contracts.
Yep.
Yeah, they're not just giving you
Yeah. A quarter of a
monster of
million
an
that goes
engine.
right to Osbo. So
No, 4 million.
$4 million. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, my
Osbo
numbers
gets
were off.
4 million. Yeah, we actually have Chris from AM sitting
Yeah,
with
we
us
have
over
Chris
here. And Chris said that
Matey in the building.
he said that he gave Osbo $5 million in cash in a briefcase, unmarked sequential last year.
The guy drives a Scion TC with like scratched up wheels from like curbing them all the time. He's not,
So he
the
does-
guy's not getting rich off drifting. I promise you.
He can't park his car. That's awesome.
Or the girlfriend, somebody.
Yeah.
Someone's having trouble parking the car because every wheel is shift on that thing.
All right.
Sick burn.
So final Instagram question. It's not even one specifically because about 10 different kids are just saying why in regards to the IM. And of course we've touched on it a little bit, but just like very directly, clearly, the IM. Why the IM? Yeah, why the IM? Because Toyota told you to. Or
Yeah. So we didn't choose the car. That's something that Toyota wanted us to use, and at first we got all sad, like, what? They made us run an IM? Like,
yeah,
this kind of sucks. When we started designing the car and like building, we're going to build the best IM in the world. That's
Right.
what that was in the plan. We'll build the best IM that we can. We'll try to do the best looking IM that ever's made, and then we'll be as competitive as we can. And then now that we finished the car, I actually really like the way it looked. We did a custom body kit on it. We actually took a Rocket Bunny kit for a different car and then changed like the glassing on it to make it work on the IM.
yeah.
So it's got a custom body kit. Like it's got a similar livery to the TC, a little bit different. Like the wheel tire package. Like we try to make it look as cool as possible, and I think it looks really cool.
Well, I'm surprised at how much I like it. I'm not even a hatchback
yeah.
fan, but I think it looks pretty damn cool for. I mean, it's like the TC. It's like I'm surprised with what you guys can do with what's given to you, to put it lightly.
And that's and I think that's the essence of the automotive aftermarket, right? So a lot of us, when we were 16 or 18 or even 25 or whatever, we ended up with some car that might not necessarily be our first choice.
Yeah.
All of us want to be driving around in Ferraris and McLarens and all that.
Or even
stuff,
an 8.6. A lot of kids want an 8.6, but their mom says no. You get the IM.
A6. Maybe I want the Toyota Sienna minivan that has the automatic liftgate and
Right.
automatic sliding doors and all
Yeah,
that
man.
stuff. But all I can get is a RAV4.
Right.
So not everybody drives what they want, and that's the same thing with the racing. But the idea is to
Tuning what you
then
got, yeah.
modify that car that in a style that tells something about me and our team and like what we're about.
That's awesome. I have. Sorry, go ahead. Finish stuff. I was gonna say I do have one more.
I guess that was the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Toyota's telling kids to take the IM, that's your mom's car,
And drift it.
and immediately throw on a modified all-wheel drive drivetrain.
Yep.
And then throw on a 900 horsepower Borg Warner turbo package
Yep.
with nitrous.
and AM intake.
Yeah, so that's what you should do to your Corollas, kids.
Yeah.
It won't void your warranty. It's fine.
Well,
And look, and this might insult a couple people, but I don't think your show cares about that.
Duh. Wow.
So
Wow,
this
sick
is my little
burn.
thing, right?
Right.
So we'll go against the grain, right? And we'll do something different. And some people love it and some people hate it. But what I would argue is, so I'm going to go out and buy some skinny jeans, right? Because I want to be different, just like the rest of my friends.
Right. Yep.
And I'm going to go out and I'm going to get an S13. I'm going to put S15 headlights on it because I want to be different,
Yeah.
just like the rest of my friends.
Yeah.
And I think there's this hypocritical hypocrisy there in saying it's all about being different, and then when someone's different,
Yeah.
saying, fuck that guy, he's so different. What is he doing with that car? That's
Right.
not the same.
Right.
That's very true.
So that's where I laugh at it,
Yep. I do have one more question. This one's actually for Sam and Paco, but I want you on the phone while they answer it.
Uh-oh.
This is from Throttle Boner 420.
Okay.
He asked, "What do you think IM stands for?"
Ooh, that's very easy to answer, Paco.
Instant Messenger.
Okay, it's the Toyota Instant Messenger.
Mm-hmm.
Inside Men
That's good.
is what it is. It's a Toyota Inside Men.
Uh-huh.
And it's kind of like people like on the inside, like they know what's going on.
Right. It's just like you being inside the loop. Like you know what's going on.
The men who are
The
on
knowledge.
The inside. Yeah.
I wonder what Steph think is.
What does IM stand for, Steph? We'll just roll to you. I think it's internet meme.
Yep. That's right.
Man, I haven't got.
Come on, nerd. Quick thinking.
Yeah, come on. Come on, RC
Yeah,
Wizard.
right?
Let's do it.
I don't know.
We're not gonna let you go till you get it.
Interesting mobile.
Oh,
Hey,
That's-
there we
that's-
go.
that's- yeah.
Sorry.
That's so boring, though.
I know,
Right?
I'm so-
Yeah, well, Throttle Boner just wanted to know.
Yeah,
so I
well-
You
figured we
guys
had
gotta
to
remember, I can't go throw some super funny, insulting acronym to that. Like, it's
Yeah.
just not-
Yeah.
Interesting machine.
You are. Well, so
Well, it makes sense because you put this 800 horsepower in this car. You've built it. You have
Yeah.
a radiator in the back seat. That's an interesting machine.
But
It
I
makes
just
total sense.
You guys just need to know, of course, that now the entire season, our fans are going to call that the interesting mobile. like this is official.
It's the
internet
idiot.
meme.
It's the idiot mobile.
Idiot mobile. Sure.
that was taken already.
Oh yeah, I've already got that.
Who would do that? Who would do that to an IM?
Right. Well, you.
He would.
And that's
You know,
that's how we should end this conversation. Is the thing we can take away from Steven or Stefan? Once again, Steve. All right, Steve. Steve.
Don't worry, people call me Terry.
Steve
so-
Papa Mama Kisses. The thing we can take away from it is what you just said, which is it's an idiot mobile. Like you're taking cars that are not supposed to do this stuff and you're doing it.
Yep, I agree.
Paco has one more.
Yeah. And then-
Oh, here we go.
Here we
no.
go.
Well, I don't know if you're familiar with our show, but I'm very into obscure and rare cars.
Here we go.
Make them do things they're not supposed to do.
Everyone drink. Paco's about to talk about his van.
I wasn't.
Okay.
But actually, it was kind of. Was there ever a moment where instead of the Corolla, there was at least a slight suggestion of making a drift Prius?
No,
Really?
that never came up.
No,
Actually,
Paco.
no.
That would have been
No.
like a game breaker. Like, you know what? Like the totally anti-drift car, make a drift Prius.
Huh.
You've
Have
gone,
you
you've
seen
gone
the,
too far.
the Prius? Hold on. Okay, I did see a Prius racing in Japan in like
Yes.
their GT series. That looks amazing.
Yeah, it was
It looks
insane.
super good.
Yeah.
Well, there's a line, and
Yeah.
Paco crossed it. We're very sorry.
Well, somebody did write on our page now that Osbo's driving a Corolla that he's going to be using his blinker during every transition.
yeah, that was funny.
And I will say this: that you know what? It's a Toyota Corolla IM. It's a Toyota Corolla, which is like the foundation of a lot of this drifting stuff. The Corolla 86.
Absolutely.
Might not be that same car, but at least we can kind
In
of
spirit.
claim the Corolla.
It's still a hatchback.
I do
It's a
want
hatchback.
I do want to
Can
end
we?
on this.
Can
Yeah.
we do that?
Yeah,
we're trying. Hey, we're trying. So,
Yeah.
No, I do want to end on this though.
Work with
It's-
us a little bit.
No, I'm super pumped for you guys. I'm super pumped for Toyota, especially getting involved as much as they are in drifting. They are propelling the sport to a whole new level, and it's taking this manufacturer involvement to do it.
Yeah.
And for you guys to do that, much respect always to you guys. Much respect to Toyota.
And for that, we
And
thank you.
We can't thank you guys enough for what you do. So.
Yeah, and thanks for all your grandfathering of motorsports we love, and thanks for taking time on a beautiful Sunday before Long Beach to talk to us.
Yeah, no problem, guys. I'm actually at the shop today, and I'm going to get back to work now.
Yeah, man. Good luck prepping, and we'll see you in a few days, man.
Thank you. Okay, later.
Later.
Later, man. We were on the phone 2 hours.
Were we really?
2
Yeah, that
hours.
was 2 hours.
Oh man.
Yeah.
What
Oops.
a nerd.
This is gonna be a long show.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's so much to talk to with that. Too.
Yeah. We could again. We could have kept comment.
As I say, Paco
going,
kept on trying to cut it off, and it's like, hold on, we need to ask one more question with this guy because he is obviously a very interesting guy that was there at the beginning of racing in America or import racing in America.
Well, to be honest with you, I did not expect this conversation to go as far as it did.
I was worried when we called him.
I didn't think we were
for
going to
the
get
sound
the
check.
knowledge we get. And,
Yeah.
and once again, our perspective of
I
Steven,
kept on calling him Steve.
Steven Mama Daddy
Yeah.
Kisses is that he's a quiet guy that flies around in the moped in the pits. He waves to you. He gets back to work.
But I've also heard he's a bit of an animal.
You're assuming the dialogue is going to be like, he's a pretty quiet, nerdy guy. He's not going to
Yeah.
say much. But man, it was.
You just gotta
I'm
know
pumped
it's
on
cool,
that.
dude.
You just got to unwrap those dudes because quiet, car geeks, but then when you start talking about
They're car geeks, but freaks in the sheets.
freaks in the sheets, yep, is that the name of the episode?
I think so.
Car geeks, but freaks in the sheets. I don't know if that'll fit in the YouTube title, but we'll work it out.
Freaks
Or
in
do you
the
just,
paddock.
or maybe call it the Interesting Mobile.
That's true too.
Some quick, brief notes. Oh, hold on. First of all, I want to say last night I went to a show, Infinity Shred, which is one of the people that I've collaborated with on my Day X videos, which is awesome. And they had an awesome show, but in the wild Maximum Driftcast fan came up and was randomly at the show. Not even there because they liked my videos and heard the band from them. They heard of a different band that was playing, but he walked up and was like, oh my God, I can't believe that I'm talking to one of the dudes from Maximum Driftcast. And he was so pumped, and he says that we make his life complete, and I'm so sorry that I forgot your name, but it was awesome seeing
Harry
you out.
Berry.
Harry Berry.
You're also drunk.
I'm so happy to meet one of you guys in the wild, and we're also, of course, going to all be at Long Beach next week. And come say hi to us whenever you can. And if I'm running from one location to another with like 3 cameras and looking sweaty and angry, don't be upset if I only say hi and run by. Same with these two because they're always sweaty and angry. And also be sure to check us out during the halftime show. We're going to be doing a halftime show on the live stream and on live in person at the podium after Top 32. And also we're going to be hovering around the AEM Intakes booth. Is it just Intakes or AM Electronics? Oh,
No,
AM and
Intakes.
Jetson Systems.
yeah. Okay, we're going to be hovering around
Indefinite.
there throughout the event, so say hi to us there. Say hi to other dudes. You might see some cool cars there, right?
Yep.
And what do you guys got?
Well, just to remind you guys to go on patreon.com/Maximum Driftcast if you guys want to support the show.
Yeah, and we actually ran out of the $5 contributions for the coffee mug,
we
which
I added 10 more.
that's what I'm saying.
You added 10 more? I just can't wait till we get enough money to do a show from space. but-
Yeah, because that is the ultimate goal. Once we get $1 million per episode, we're going to do it from the moon.
Yep.
And it's going to be great. And I'm going to take off Paco's helmet as a goof.
And kick him out the space shuttle.
Well, then they'll bring him back.
oh.
30, just for 30 seconds. I'm going to space him.
He's gonna look like Arnold Schwarzenegger from Total Recall when he lands on Mars and is out.
Get out!
Ouch, my blood.
Yep. So Patreon dudes, thank you so much.
Yeah, appreciate it. You guys are awesome.
And we'll do another call out for you guys next ep.
Yeah,
And-
we already went a little too long.
Yeah, Kobe,
Next
what you got?
episode would be after Long Beach.
Well,
We might
yes.
do,
Well, I'm hoping that we get to talk to Ryan Sajan again.
Yeah, already
Some-
talked. Yep, we're good.
Some-
We're locked in for
Sometime during the week, we're going to talk to him and talk about the state of drifting, kind of like a State of the Union stuff we did last year at State of the Drift.
Yep.
State of the Drift Union, I guess. I don't know. Whatever. Let's shut it down. You've been here for so long. Thank you for listening. Check out the Patreon. Share the app. Subscribe. Leave us a rating of 5 stars or more.
If
And we love you.
Love you.
Love you.
Have a good night, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
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 Bye.